Get you, Barbara.
When there's no more room in hell.
And we are live. What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday night to you all. Hope you're all doing well out there. Me and my AI overlords welcome you to another edition of the Sunday night stream, Sunday of the Dead, here on the Alpha Romero channel. Hope you're all doing well out there. It's gotten a little colder here. Back to back to what you'd kind of expect for this time of year, but I think it's supposed to warm back up again at some point. So, or at least we hope so. I mean, that's kind of the hope. I don't know. Usually, that's how seasons work. But how's everybody doing out there? Got some pretty cool stuff to show you guys tonight. I've come prepared tonight with I've come armed, as they say. Recently picked up some never before seen photos from the set of Creepshow. And I know these are never before seen because I'll let you guys know. I'll tell you guys the entire story of where these pictures came from. I found them on eBay, so it's not like I was wandering through a flea market or something. It was like, oh, what are these? No, they were on eBay. I was just lucky enough to be the highest bidder on these suckers. But I did message the guy that was selling them, and I was just curious. I was like, "Hey," because I've never seen these before. They just jumped out at me as soon as I saw them. And I was like, I don't think I've ever seen these Creepshow photos before. So I messaged the guy and asked him. I was like, where did you get these? How did you come across these? And he sent me like an entire story. I'm going to read you the whole thing tonight. The guy was super cool. How he came into possession of these and his whole story. So look forward to sharing that with you. We're going to look at the photos with a fine tooth comb, go through the details. These photos have opened a lot of doors for me, like knowledge wise, some certain aspects of Creepshow that I think are pretty cool, kind of interesting, kind of fills in a lot of the blanks in terms of the making of the movie and where Laurel was at the time and their relationship with UFDC. Pretty cool stuff. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be pretty cool to check those out. Also, this week, I hope you guys saw. I did post it that the tickets for the screenings, there's going to be 2 screenings at Living Dead weekend this year of Dawn of the Dead. They did get Dawn of the Dead, the U.S. theatrical cut, for 2 more screenings at the mall. Probably, I was thinking that October was going to be the last time because it's Rubenstein and you know how he kind of does things. So, but no, luckily they got 2 more screenings, Friday night and Saturday night, so that you'll have plenty of opportunity to see the film in the theater, in the mall where the movie was shot, more than likely one last time. So yeah, we'll discuss that. They also announced some photo ops as well, a couple that I'm pretty cool that I'm probably gonna get myself. So we'll talk about that, and we'll go back to last week to where I fucked up and I wasn't prepared as I thought I was, and we'll take a look at those prototypes for the new Creepshow figures that are coming out from Trick or Treat Studios next year. So I do have those handy. So we'll take a look at those too. And I also have them on standby here because I mentioned them last week. I do have the Creepshow figures that Monstars put out. So we'll take a look and kind of compare. And looking at the ones that I have and looking at the prototypes for the Trick or Treat Studio ones that are coming next year. Now I know last week I said it was a hard no. I'm going to pass on these. I don't need them. I already got these Creepshow figures, but comparing the two, it's like, yeah, maybe I'll grab the Trick or Treat Studio ones as well. But let's see who we got on the chat here. Quite a few people chiming in early here. We had Jeff down is up first up. My number 1 man here, first on the board, first in the chat room. What's up, my man? Says, what's up, Michael, and all my fellow Romero Living Dead family? It is a blizzard here in New York City. I hope everyone is safe and warm. Yeah, it's not a blizzard here. It's gotten colder. It's not ridiculously cold, but in the span of like a month, we went from -5 or a 5-degree high to 70 degrees earlier this week, and we're back down to like 25, 30 as the high today. So, but I think it's going to be back up to like 60 or 70. So, tornadoes are probably on the horizon. But yeah, I did see that you guys were going to have some pretty rough winter weather up in the Northeast. So yeah, man, stay safe, stay warm for sure. We got Larry in the chat. What's up, my man? Says, I'm excited to see all these new Creepshow pictures. This is going to be cool. Yeah, man. And shout out to Larry who kind of helped me piece together some of this information and trying to figure out who are these people in these photos and stuff. And I knew I could reach out to Larry because I just assumed that he would have the call sheets from the day of shooting that these pictures were taken, and sure as shit, he dug them out and was like, "Here you go. Here, is this what you need?" I was like, "Thanks, man. This helps a lot." So leave it to Larry if you need answers on something. Larry's probably got you covered. But yeah, we're gonna check those out here momentarily. Good to see you, my man. We got Michelle in the house. What's up, Michelle? Howdy, peeps. Doing well. I'm sorry, Michelle, by the way. I know it's kind of a rough day for you. I know you woke up this morning with all the dreams and the hopes that that Canada was going to bring home the gold in hockey, the Canadian, the great Canadian pastime of hockey. But unfortunately, America prevails again. USA, USA. I didn't even know the game was going on today, so I can't really say anything. So But hey, nothing wrong with silver. Nothing wrong with silver, Michelle. Um, Bonnie, what's going on, Bonnie? How are you, Bonnie? Good to see you. Um, yes, sir. We must bow to our AI overlords. I've come around on AI. I'm trying not to use it. I'm trying to like use it to help me fulfill an idea more so than just like using it to be a crutch, I guess. I don't know. Having conversations and stuff with people that about AI and stuff, I'm kind of 50-50 on it. Like I don't want to use it strictly, but if I can come up with something cool and help and use AI to help me accomplish it, I'm not against it. So I'm kind of, you know, and eventually, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like adapt or die. I kind of feel like too. I see so much stuff now online and advertisements and stuff for different AI systems. Like I saw one the other day that I thought was kind of cool, where you can put in like an entire screenplay and it will translate it, and it's almost like a table read with different voices and different characters and stuff like that you can do. I was like, that's just kind of cool. So yeah, I don't know. So I'm trying to learn it and learn how to hone it and use it for good and not evil. But we'll see what happens. Who knows? A year from now, I may not even be sitting here. It'll just be an AI version of me just saying AI, versions of what you would expect me to say. Like, oh, Braddock, I love Braddock and Tony Booba rules, and it's just gonna be a cartoon version of me doing this and talking about fucking lightning over Braddock over and over again or something like that. Um, we got TPCQ Studios. What's going on, my man? What's up? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Rick, the North Going Llama. What's going on, brother? Good to see you. Good to have you here, sir. Uh, yeah, yeah, Major. Yeah, like I said, I'm not gonna get too carried away. I'm not gonna let I'm not gonna let it take over my soul yet, but we'll see where this goes. We got folks saying hello. We got my man here, Stephen Oostrack Jr.'s in the house. Wouldn't be a Sunday or a Saturday night here on the Off Romero channel without Stephen in the house. What's going on, man? Matt Drone of the Dead is in the house. What's going on, Matt? How you doing, buddy? Synth, yeah, shout out to Synth. The music and the opening my AI video there, my opening countdown video. Uh, that was our good buddy Andy there, Synth Addict. Go check out his channel. You can find there's actually from the video where he's actually composing that little piece of music. I that one you sent me a few of them, was like, hey man, check these out. I think you'd like them, and that was the one that kind of stuck in my head. It's kind of you know kind of been in my head ever since. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna use that this week. But yeah, man, good shit, good shit. Thanks for that. Good to see you, my man. Let's see, we got people saying hello, hello, a lot of hellos. There's my boy Ed. What's going on, man? Ed Baggett at Trader Music and Entertainment, doing great, coming through loud and clear. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate you doing that because it's been a lot better here recently. I think my connection's a little better. I think my setup's a little better now. But yeah, like there were moments there for like a good 6-month period where I would be like 15 minutes into a stream and there'd be people like, I can't, you're breaking in and out, or you're not coming in clear, sir. So thanks for the heads up, and thanks for that peace of mind, if nothing else. We got Paul Brooks in the house, Paul Brooks TV. Happy howdy, folks. Happy Sunday to you as well, sir. Good to see you. And Rick saying, how many Creepshow movies were made? Well, that's kind of an interesting question, because technically only 3. There is the TV show as well, if you want to count that. There's the Creepshow TV show. Of course, there's the original Creepshow from 1982. There's Creepshow 2 from 87, which was directed by Mike Gornick. Then there was that hunk of shit Creepshow 3 from 2010, 2009, somewhere around that time period. Years and years down the road, they made a Creepshow 3. It's nothing I would advise anybody watching. For me, my personal Creepshow 3, the movie that I consider the perfect third edition of Creepshow, is Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, directed by John Harrison from 1990. So yeah, technically there's only 3, but like I said, it kind of varies if you want to count the TV show, which I've seen some episodes here and there of the TV show, but It's like Tales from the Dark Side, the TV show for that. It's like one of those things where it's hard for me to get into TV shows for the most part. There's just so much to take in, and it's so time consuming that I'm just like, eh. Um, but there's some pretty good episodes of that as well that I would recommend checking out. Creepshow 3, fuck it, don't worry about it. But Tales from the Dark Side, the movie though, that is the perfect conclusion. Like instead of a book, the little boy's in the fucking in prison reading the book. It should be a little boy reading a comic book to the witch before the witch kills him and cooks him. And I think that'd be perfect. But that's just me. Jeff says, yeah, it's cool that they have the VIP. It was part of the package. Very cool of them. Yeah. I wish I would have known that before I bought my ticket, because I bought a ticket for Saturday as well, but I have the VIP ticket. So I have now tickets to both screenings, which it's been discussed maybe doing both screenings Friday and Saturday, but it just depends on what we got going on. But I'll say, if they sell out, if the Saturday shows sell out and anybody doesn't get a ticket for that and they want a ticket for it, let me know and I will hook you up for cheap. I'll hook you up for below asking price. I'll just say that. Or if you just want to buy them from me directly, because I think if we're doing the Friday night, I love Dawn of the Dead and stuff, but 2 nights back to back, I don't know. We'll see. I feel like there'd be something cooler going on, but I don't know. Something cooler than watching Dawn of the Dead at the mall. What am I drunk? What am I smoking crack here? Yeah, I agree. Ed nailed it. There's only 2. The third one doesn't exist. Correct answer. There you go. Phil of the Dead. What's going on, man? Missed out on VIP, but got a weekend pass for Living Dead weekend. Awesome. Excited and a bit sad to see off the mall. Yeah, man. It's going to be a good show, though. It's going to be some really good vibes. I think everybody's going to be really in good spirits. I don't know, man. I just think it's going to be a really awesome way to kind of have one last Dawn of the Dead reunion in the mall. I think it's it will be sad. It's always sad, like Sunday, the last day of the show, when you're leaving and it's like, oh man, like it's time to go. But it's always been that way, even like before anything was going to happen to the mall. It always kind of sucked leaving. But yeah, man, it should be good. Did you get so you missed out on the VIP? Did you get a Saturday pass for the screening, Dawn of the Dead? If not, get on it. I think they're still available. I don't think they've sold out yet, believe it or not. So get on them. And if you miss out, like I said, just hit me up. I can probably hook you up with one. Rick says we had 10 feet of snow on the ground in Sierra Nevadas in California. Yeah, I was hearing some funky shit about the weather out west. Like it's pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean that's kind of been the weather cycle here. Like I said, in a matter of a week, we went from like 70 degrees, people outside doing fucking yard work, to like today it was back down to like 25 to 30. So it's just all over the fucking place right now. And Michelle's saying you guys needed the win more than we did. Hey, I don't know what you're talking about. When's the last time? Maybe this may be an antiquated thing, but when's the last time that a Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup? I think 93 has won since then. It would have to be in recent years. I've kind of lost track with the NHL over the years, but I used to go to a lot of like Preds games, Nashville Predators games, and I was really into Predator hockey for a while and kind of got into hockey quite a bit. But the past few years, ever since moving to Indiana and being far away where I can't actually go to the games, like there's no hockey A here in Indiana. So, but I know it's I know your soul is hurting tonight, but it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Rick says, were the Russians banned from the Olympics this year due to the war? Yeah, I don't know about that. It's a good question. I have no idea. I know very little. I've followed the Olympics very minimally. I know nothing about how many medals the U.S. has won. The Olympics is just one of those things that's never in my vicinity or my radar. It's just I don't care. I don't. Even something cool like hockey, it's just like it's fucking Olympics. Yeah. Until we get Olympic football, until then, eh. Yeah, man. We got to get with the program. We got to give the program, or if we don't embrace it, it will destroy us. That's my thought. Jeff says AI is another tool, just like CGI was back in the day. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel, and I also kind of had the feeling of like, so like running a YouTube channel, like you see a lot of YouTubers, they invest a lot of money into equipment and the microphones and lighting and then the cameras and stuff like that. And then if you want to have any kind of chance to compete with some of these people, you kind of gotta sometimes you gotta use something like AI, and CGI was kind of the same thing. It's like how to back in the day, like low budget films would always, for good or worse, like I was never a big fan of it, but that's one of the big reasons why um for example, like Romero's later zombie films, the CGI that was used in that, like George never wanted to use CGI. He was never a proponent of CGI. If you listen to his interviews in the late '90s and early 2000s, he was always very against AI. But then when Land of the Dead came around and Diary and the rest of his films, like you kind of had to use AI if you wanted to compete in the marketplace at that point. You kind of had to embrace it because you didn't have the time or the money, especially when it came to like special effects. You didn't really have the time or the money to do them practically like you could have done years prior. And that's kind of where I feel like AI is at now. Like you can kind of use it to kind of level the playing field if you don't have I'm like, for example, like AI art. Not a fan of somebody who uses AI to create art and then sell it at like a show or something, like at a con or on eBay or something like that. Like I think that's no, that I'm not a big fan of that. Um, but if you're using AI to expand upon an idea or create something that you would otherwise not have the money or the capabilities to do, why not go for it? If you can execute it, if you can dream it, be it. As who said that? I think that was RuPaul, maybe. I don't know. But yeah. Michelle says, thanks, Andy. At least I was in the East Coast, so the game started at 9:10 a.m. instead of before. Yeah, you were up early drinking first thing this morning, so I'm catching up. I'm trying to catch up to you. Um, Phil the Dead says there are plenty of out of work actors who'd love to do a script reading anytime, preferably the day of the Dead first draft. Yeah, that was brought up to me. Who put out that comment? Somebody, I think it was Nathan. There was a comment. It was like, "Have you ever thought about doing like a?" I think he was just kind of like wanting to go through like maybe the Dawn of the Dead script or something on a live stream, or the original Day script or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I've often thought about it, that how that it would be really cool to maybe do like a live stream like that, like get a group of people together and do like a live stream table read of the Day script, or you play Captain Rhodes, you do this, you do that, and I think something like that would be fun. But yeah, uh, there's definitely I get what you're saying, but again, it comes down to like time and money. Like I couldn't just be like, "Hey, I'm going to hire a bunch of actors to just do a table read," but it would be kind of cool, especially like some of the screenplays and stuff that I've written over the years that I still have stashed away somewhere. It'd be kind of cool to put those into a system and just kind of hear it back to see like, oh, does the dialogue work? Does that sound okay? Because you can kind of pick like what your characters sound like and stuff like that. It was kind of a cool concept, but just out of morbid curiosity, I would love to check something like that out. Riverman, what's going on, man? Todd's in the house. Hey, bro, what's up, brother? He's going to be at Living Dead weekend as well. And I'm going to have Riverman and Riverman. I'm just going to call you Todd. I'm going to have Todd and Aaron on here in a few weeks. We're going to be doing a ranking show with those guys. I always have a blast with those guys. Love being on their channel. They haven't been on this channel in quite some time, but I'm stoked to get them back on because it's always a blast just chatting with those guys. And I think the topic for what we're going to be ranking, which I'll announce later on, but um, I think it's going to be a really fun show. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, looking forward to it, man. Hope you're doing well. Um, the AI furry version of Alpha must see TV. You just wait, sir. You just wait. I'm gonna have a tail and the ears and everything. You just wait. I got it all planned out. Um, Since says AI is a good tool, just not good to have it as an exclusive tool for the whole creation / augments are great. Yeah, that's kind of my thinking on it. Um, my only concern is, will it just completely replace everything? Like, I'm joking about like, oh, in about a year, I'm just going to be a cartoon version of myself, just hey, John Rice, just just blurting random shit. I don't know. Um, that's what I'm worried about. I don't want it to like completely, fully replace everything. Which I'm sure there were some people back in the day that thought CGI would eventually do that. Um, but uh, you know, who knows where it's going to go? It's definitely worrisome when you hear stories of different developers and people that are on the front lines of developing AI that are starting to really freak out and fucking like what was the dude's name? I don't know. There was like a guy that's like a lead developer on some version of an AI system that has resigned from his post and is like running off to England to study acting and just go into hiding. I'm just like, well, it's a little concerning. Um, but you know, Skynet, we've seen how this plays out, so we're I guess we're kind of prepared for it. I don't know. William, what's going on, man? William Blasco. Good evening, everyone. Going to bed soon. Alarm goes off at 4. No worries, my man. I feel you. Yeah. That's the one thing about doing shit on Sunday nights. It's kind of nice because yesterday was kind of cool. Had a little daddy daughter adventure out into the city of Evansville. She was looking for a particular Halloween costume, which is nowhere near Halloween, but she loves just buying costumes and wearing them around the house. She's been really into this. It's called K-pop Demon Hunter stuff, and she's fucking crazy about it, and she's looking for some kind of costume for that. Um, which is, a lot of it's based on like music. I guess they're supposed to be like the characters in that are supposed to be like a girl band or something like that from I guess it's Korea K-pop. I don't know. But honestly, like she was like play some of those songs, while we were driving yesterday, and I was like, I can kind of dig this is pretty funky shit. Like I can kind of dig some of this stuff. It's not too bad actually. So we went to the local costume shop here, and I was a proud father because as soon as we walked in, they have all the masks and stuff on the wall. And of course, she picked, oh, there's Gizmo, and there's Chucky, and there's no Boo Boo Chucky, and there's Mommy Chucky. And then there was a Bub mask on the wall. And she said, oh, look, it's Bub. And I was like, that's my girl. Yes, that is Bub. That is Bub. Whatever you want. It's all yours. And then it was kind of funny. I mentioned this in our group chat yesterday. I took her to the mall here, the local mall, and we all the talk and stuff about Monroeville Mall and how malls are in decline and how malls are dying and stuff. It's so weird, but here in Evansville, the mall here in Evansville is like it's like the fucking 90s. It was like the 90s in that mall yesterday on a Saturday. I mean, it was just packed. I mean, lines all through the food court, every restaurant, just people all over the damn mall, going to all kinds of different places. And I was just walking around there, just like, man. But the thing is about our mall here in Evansville, it's like it's actually pretty well kept up. There's no empty storefronts in that mall whatsoever. Every storefront is full with some kind of store. Um, and it kind of shows that like they're malls can still work in this day and age if it's some place that if you can make it a place that people actually want to go and spend time in. And people say, oh, these malls are dying and stuff. It's like, well, yeah, because nobody's done any upkeep on this fucking mall. That's the thing about Monroeville Mall, man. Like when I first got to the mall in 2021, it's like you could tell like they hadn't really done any upgrading or upkeeping. There was a lot of vegetation growth and shit on the outside of the mall, and yeah, it's an old mall. It's which actually I got my Norman England calendar over here, and I was looking at it a second ago, and I was going to bring this up. This is a perfect opportunity to do that. But today, February 22nd, is the anniversary for the groundbreaking of the Monroeville Mall back in 1968. So groundbreaking for the Monroeville Mall happened on this day back in 1968. So yeah, it's an old fucking mall. But it just goes without saying. It's like, so yeah, I was just walking around the mall. I was just like, man, why can't we get a little bit of this magic going on up in Monroeville? But But yeah, it was a fun day. So, but that's the cool thing about that I kind of like doing shows on Sunday. I like them on Saturdays because I can stay up as late as I want. I ain't got to worry about getting up early to go to work the next day. But Sundays, it's like, yeah, um, I know as soon as I get off here, I gotta get to bed and get my ass up early for work tomorrow. So, uh, but it's cool. All we got's time. All we got is time. If I get 6 hours of sleep, I'm solid. Like I rarely need more than that, honestly. Rick says, does that include Creepshow Demon Night? You're thinking of that is Tales from the Crypt Demon Night, which is one of those movies that I remember watching when I was a kid that scared the liver loving shit out of me. So that's the one with old Cal from Titanic, Billy Zane in it. I remember watching that when I was a kid and freaked me out. That was one of those movies that kind of got me. Jeff said it would have been cool if maybe they'd showed the 3D version of it. Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like maybe doing a Friday screening for like just the regular 2D and then a 3D screening on that Saturday. But it's both nights. It's the same 2D. It's probably gonna be the same version that we saw last year, which is a beautiful looking version. It sounds great. It looks great. It's definitely gonna be worth doing. Matt says I'll probably do the same with mine. If we're seeing it Friday, I'd rather have more time hanging at the VIP party on Saturday. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Because I think because the VIP party overlaps with the screening on Saturday by like an hour, so I don't want to be like rushing and stuff. Because honestly, if you want to get, especially if it's like if you got a big group of people that you want to sit together, you definitely want to get there like at least 30 minutes before showtime, so you can get in line because that line's going to go all around through the mall. Like that's how it was last year. So yeah, if you're doing the VIP party, you're probably going to be at the VIP party for like 30 minutes before you have to go and stand in line to get in the theater. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, Matt, for sure. Since says thanks, that was a track I made for a weekly Hardware Jams challenge for color. I chose black for Darkwave. You nailed it. You hit the nail on the head with that one because it's fucking groovy. Phil says did not get the pass, but I will. I'll try to get it now. Do it, man. Do it. Get on it. It's totally worth it to see, and it'll probably, like I said, that Saturday screening will probably more than likely 99% chance that's going to be the last time that movie plays in that mall. So definitely do it. Coincidence control. What's going on, man? 93. The Habs won. Last Canadian team to do it. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. So take that, Michelle. Michelle says that's for the Stanley Cup. I hate most of the Canadian teams. Montreal being my most hated team. Toronto's second most hated. Well, what about the Oilers? You like the Oilers? Well, you're Nova Scotia, so what would be like the closest home team for you? Would it be Montreal? That'd be like the farthest east, I think. Montreal, Toronto, Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary. Yeah. So Montreal, that's your home team. So you just need to get on board. You just need to get with it. But let me guess. You're a Penguins fan, right? Hey, Sidney Crosby. You can't go wrong with him. Todd says, what were your thoughts on the second sight 4K transfer of Dawn? Going back and watching it, I was a little underwhelmed. I'm kind of on your team on that one. I think some of the color correction, it's a little too bright and a little too colorful for my liking. I know that Don May from Synapse has talked about his issues with it in the past, which is why he wanted to do the 4K restoration in the US for Dawn, which never ended up happening, for now at least. But at the time, I thought it looked, I was like, wow, it looks so clear and bright and vibrant. But I do have some issues with just some of the brightness of some of the colors. Like the greens are really green. Like when they're outside, like that's kind of it's a little. Like when I think of Dawn of the Dead, I think of like dark, gloomy skies for the most, because it was shot all through the winter in Pittsburgh, so you got a lot of dead trees and gray skies and stuff. And I always felt like the grass was just a little too fucking green, and then that the color correction. But I mean, it was overseen by Gornick, so who the hell am I to say? Gornick gave it his stamp of approval, so who might argue? Matt says Roger Avery's AI film company is releasing 3 films next year. Not sure how I feel about that. Yeah, I saw you mention something about that, and I feel like I remember hearing him say something about that in the past. It's interesting. Like I said, I mean, I don't know how I feel about it being an actual like full blown company where like that's all they do is just AI films. But I mean, if that's the only way that you can get something made, that you just want to get it made and just to see it come to life. I mean, some of it is kind of fun and interesting. Like I remember seeing, I think it was maybe was it was it you, Jeff, that sent me the link to that Elvis in Dawn of the Dead thing? Like, yeah, it's a little goofy looking at times, but at the same time, it did kind of capture that essence of Dawn of the Dead from the '70s. And it had Elvis in it. And there was like it was actually kind of funny, like seeing Elvis in these in a Dawn of the Dead situation. I don't know, so that it was kind of entertaining that way. But I don't know about like an actual, I don't know an actual film company. I don't know how I feel about that. Which how you met Roger over the weekend. I know you said you had a pretty good 30-minute conversation with Roger. I'm guessing you didn't talk much about his conspiracy theories and stuff, but he's an interesting cat, man. He's an interesting dude. I loved his commentary. It's still one of my all-time favorite commentaries. Is the Day of the Dead commentary that he did for the Anchor Bay DVD back in the day. I wish there were more commentaries like that, where you take a filmmaker or somebody that loves a certain film and actually has them do a commentary on it. Um, but yeah, I've always thought Roger was an interesting guy, interesting story. He's gone through some shit in his life. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'd love to meet him and talk to him in person. So, um, seems like a very interesting guy. Jeff says from Rocky Horror initially, I believe. I don't remember what I was talking about. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up. Trying to be on the same page with you guys. Steven says, except for the zombie crowd scenes, Romero was quoted in a few interviews saying he'd use CGI for crowd scenes. Yeah, he did in Land of the Dead. And George would always talk about it in terms of CGI if it was used properly, and not used as a crutch, as like the entire basis of the film. I think he kind of understood it, and he did end up using CGI to kind of do that in Land of the Dead, where the zombies are about to cross the river, and the camera pans out and it looks like thousands of zombies there. Like, yeah, that was CGI. They didn't have thousands of extras there that night. But it's not distracting. Like doing it that way, doing it for something like that, it's not overly distracting. Like it's like, okay, well, we're not going to have 1,000 extras here, but we'll use CGI to kind of get our point across here. It's just like when you, but then there's the other side of that coin in Land of the Dead, where you got the priest with the spine and the head and it comes flying up, and it looks like a fucking cartoon, and it just never looked good to me on any fucking level. Just as I saw the interview with Roger on that channel Film Thread. I haven't seen that one. I know he's been out and about a lot here lately, doing the rounds. Their channel's cool too. I watch it regularly. I think I've seen. It sounds familiar, so I've probably seen a video or two from them, but I can't say that I'm a regular viewer. Dimbowski. Hold on, Dimbowskick. Dimbo's Kick. 72. What's up? Please correct me if I'm butchering that, but I'm doing my best here. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Glad to have you. Robert, what's going on, man? Robert Harvest II's in the house. Good to see you, my man. Michelle says my twin nieces have K-pop Demon Hunter costumes they're obsessed with too. Yeah. The one that she's obsessed with is Rumi, is the character's name. It's the girl with the long purple hair and a braid. Yeah, she's all about that shit right now. So Jeff says it would have been cool if they could turn the Monroeville Mall into like a laser tag type area. They do have that at the Monroeville Mall. They do have zombie laser tag at the arcade in the Monroeville Mall. So there is that. If you want to play while you're there, Jeff. People dressed up like zombies, you can recreate Dawn of the Dead. Yeah, if you could use the whole mall to do something like that, yeah, definitely that'd be pretty fucking cool. Since my childhood malls are gone, but we have several upscale malls here with fancy shops and good food. Movie theaters are Alamo Draft House, good stuff. Yeah, I've often said like it's funny that the major upscale malls don't seem to be struggling all that much. It's just the the middle class malls that we all grew up uh, going to. Those are the ones that seem to be going by the wayside. But and I think there's an economic reason for that. I think the middle class is shrinking, so if you can't buy if you can buy it, go to if you can get it at Walmart, cool. If you can't, like people just order it on Amazon now. A lot of people don't bother going to a shopping mall anymore like they used to because the prices are higher and people just can't fucking afford it. I don't know, but those upscale malls, it seems like the rich folks are doing just fine. So I don't know. Since says, "Oh man, we have to watch Dawn 2 nights in the row at the mall. How will we be able to make it?" I know it's just like Chinese fucking water torture, right? Rick says, "How big is the theater in the mall?" It's a pretty good size theater. It's like a little multiplex. Holds quite a few. I think probably it holds about 200 people in the theater. Um, that we were at last year. So I would say it's about 150 to 250 somewhere around there. I know they said that the VIP tickets that people got, if you got VIP tickets, which I think those were limited to, was it 150 or 200? I can't remember. They said pretty much everybody that has those tickets, that's pretty much the capacity for the theater. So somewhere around there. Bruins. Okay, that's interesting. Pins are number two. I really haven't watched hockey in a long time though. Outside of the Olympics, I'm more of a football gal. Me too. Me too. But I was really into hockey for a while there when the Preds were on that run. They got close to that Stanley Cup. I was like, man, there was nothing better than fucking downtown Nashville during a Preds game. Party fucking central. And I've been to quite a few Preds games. I didn't even care about hockey, like hockey, know anything about hockey. Yeah, no interest until I actually went to a game. Until I went to an actual Preds game, and then I was like, all right, I'm fucking hooked. This is awesome. Jeff, Steelers. I have a respect. I'm not a Steelers fan, but I do have a respect for the Steelers. And now that they got Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, and I'm a Packers guy, I do have some of my heart is in Pittsburgh with the Steelers right now. So, um, Steven says I never thought I needed Elvis and Dawn, but I really did enjoy it. I'd love to see a more accurate mashup, but it works for me. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. Wasn't necessary, but it was pretty entertaining. It was pretty enjoyable, actually. Jeff says, imagine Quentin Tarantino did a commentary on Dawn. He loves the film. Oh yeah, like that would be something like that would be great. Um, God, there's so many people you could get to do a Dawn commentary that I think would be a lot of fun, a lot of really entertaining. Trying to think, well, it would be like my dream commentary for Dawn. Tarantino would be up there. Borchardt, you guys know I love American Movie. You guys know I love Mark Borchardt. Coven, man. It's Coven. Coven sounds like oven. I'd love to get a Borchardt commentary on that. I think that would be fucking crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I wish they would do more like that. Since says the recent Tom Cruise Brad Pitt AI fight looks pretty good, but does not give me warm fuzzy feeling about the future of films. Yeah, I was watching one with, speaking of the US beating Canada in hockey, I saw a video where Trump was on the ice skating and scoring goals on Canada, and I was just like, and it looked legit, like it looked kind of legit, and I was like, what is going on? It's not good. It's not good. Matt says, very cool guy. Didn't talk about his wild conspiracy theories. He mostly talked to Phantasm. Hell yeah. He hinted at wanting to release an AI version of Phantasm, his Phantasm 1999 script too. Something like that would be interesting. Like all those projects back in the day that never got made. I would love if you could use AI to just kind of give an idea of what it would have been. I think that would be interesting. I don't know. Yeah, something like that. But like I said, I just don't want it to completely replace, which is my fear that it could just completely replace movies as we know it. But that's probably seems to be what's gonna happen before too long. Matt says the issue that he would face with that is Angus Scrimm refused to sign over his likeness before he passed away. I don't think Avery knows about that. That's interesting. Would you need that for AI? I guess you would, right? If you wanted to like do it officially, you wanted to do it legally. Jeff says, that's a shame. I love Phantasm. Met Angus. He was a great guy. Yeah, I'm a huge Phantasm fan as well. Huge fan of the first film. I like the sequels. They're okay. They're fun. But the first film to me is just like horror genius. That late 70s flavor, man. I love it. I at least watch that movie once a year. Steven says, quick question for you, Alpha. Did you see the AI Don short, The Ride? It's not perfect, but it tries to fill in. Yeah, I saw that. I'm not wasn't blown away by it. I'll just say that. I don't think stuff like that. It's just like it's just not necessary. Like it's just not like not a fan of that. But something like a parody of like Elvis is it's almost like okay, this would be an alternate reality, an alternate universe. I don't need it to like add scenes to Dawn of the Dead because they think it adds nothing to the actual movie itself, and it's just kind of like, I don't feel good about that one. I just feel gross watching it. Robert says, just rewatched Dawn Day in the Dark Cat in the last few days. Good times. Hell yeah, man. I've been on a Creepshow kick because I got these photos and, talking to Felsher a couple weeks ago about Creepshow. And I don't know. I've just been on a bit of a Creepshow kick here lately. And a Stephen King kick as well. I've been kind of on Stephen King here recently. I just started. So I've never actually really read a Stephen King novel until now. I just recently started Carrie. I'm going to start from the beginning. So I started Carrie. I did just finish On Writing, the Stephen King book On Writing, where he's just talking about writing. It's literally Stephen King on writing. It's kind of half autobiographical, half like his techniques and theories and what he does and how he writes. Really, really interesting stuff. Really, really cool to hear. And just hearing the story of how he came up and living in the apartment with no money and struggling to get by, and then eventually, selling Carrie, and it's like, oh, here's $200,000, and he's just like, what? Love stories like that. So yeah, I just finished On Writing. I started reading Carrie. So yeah, I've just been kind of a bit of a Stephen King kick as of late as well. So. Chance, what's going on, man? Elvis and Dawn, the AI? There's an AI video out there. It's Elvis Presley starring in Dawn of the Dead. It's like I don't know, was it 5 to 10 minute little short? It's it's fun. It's actually pretty well done, and it's actually got some pretty fun shit in it. What's going on, man? Good to see you. You gonna be at Living Dead Weekend again this year? If so, I look forward to seeing you again. Ed says I went to a fight once that broke out in a hockey game. Yeah, what was it? A Philadelphia Flyers game back in the day? The old Broad Street Bullies, which I still think would be a badass movie that I wish Rob Zombie would have been able to make, but just never happened. Paul says, Mike, have you seen the video of Borchardt and Mike Shank doing live commentary for Night of the Living Dead on Halloween? I think it's on YouTube. I have seen that. I have most definitely seen that. And my boy Will actually just shared, there's actually a 3 to 4 hour long video from that entire, because it was like an all night thing on Adult Swim, I guess it was that night. Was it Adult Swim or Spike TV or one of those channels back in the day? And it's just like, cutting in and out to Mike and Mark. Yeah, I still need to check the whole 3-4 hours of that out, but yeah, I've definitely seen the commentary a couple of times now. And it's so funny because Mark is so, he loves movies. He's very smart when it comes to film and filmmaking and the history of filmmaking and stuff. He has his very particular taste that I've learned to really appreciate and respect, and has really played a big role in influencing my own. Like I've talked about in the past, hearing him talk about certain directors like Ingmar Bergman and John Cassavetes and guys like that have really opened the door for me discovering those filmmakers. And those are some of the filmmakers that I just really, really dig now. Um, but it's funny on that commentary. Mark is like trying to talk about the film in a real analytical like way about like what's going on in the film and stuff, and Mike just has nothing to really offer to it. He's just talking about like, oh, it's kind of cool that it's in black and white. A lot of movies are in black and white now. And you can just feel Mark just kind of getting annoyed as the commentary is going on. He's just like, well, yeah, man, like, you know, it was 1968. I mean, a lot of shows were black and white back in the day. It's just, yeah, it's an interesting commentary, if nothing else. Elvis and Dawn of Nights on YouTube. Yeah, you can check it out. You can probably just type in Elvis and Dawn of the Dead. It'll probably pop up. Steven says someone made an AI version. Okay, so you're explaining what that is. Very cool. Salem's Lot, so good. I have Salem's Lot. I'll have to. That's on the docket next. I'm gonna try to go through and see how far I can get into King's work. We'll see. We'll see how I feel after I get through Carrie. Larry says I only read Misery before the movie was made. Great book. Yeah, he talks about writing Misery and his inspiration writing Misery and stuff in that book on writing. It was also interesting because he wrote that book, or at least that the section of the book where he talks about getting hit by the fucking van. So he's like talking about that, because that was what 99, and I think the book came out in the early 2000s. So there's actually a chapter on him getting run over and his recovery and everything. I thought was pretty interesting too. But yeah, the On Writing was a pretty good book. I dig reading stuff like that, listening to creative types, talk about their process and their way of thinking about things. A lot of people talking about this Don Elvis thing. Maybe we'll have to do a live watch along of this, Andy, at some point. That'll be the next watch along. Elvis and Dawn of the Dead. Matt saying my boy's all grown up, finally reading books. So proud. Hey, yeah, I'm almost done. It's taken a while, but I'm almost all the way through the this as well. George A. Romero's Independent Cinema. That one's a tough one. Because there's a lot to chew on in there, especially if you're a Romero fan. There's a lot to digest in that book, but I'm getting there. Matt says huge King fan, read everything up to his more recent stuff. The Dark Tower series is his best. Highly recommend. All right. That's the thing about King. It's like there's so much out there that he's done over the years. I figure, I'm going to just start at the beginning. I'll start with Carrie and just kind of go from there and see where that goes. I definitely want to check out From a Buick 8. That's another Stephen King story that I want to tackle at some point, because that's one that George was originally slated to direct at one point. And I mean, it's a story about, I guess it's a story about a car that's actually from outer space. And it takes place in Western Pennsylvania, and it sounds kind of interesting. And I would love to read that and kind of, I don't know, picture in my mind what a Romero film From a Buick 8 would have been like. But that one's definitely one that I'm going to check out at some point soon. But we'll get there. Just got to check out the AI Elvis Dawn mashup. Yeah, do it, man. It's pretty entertaining and pretty well done, actually. Chin says, I don't know. I really want to go to Living Dead Weekend this year, but my money ain't measuring up like it did last year. Yeah, that's understandable, man. That's totally understandable. You definitely don't want to go in the hole. But if you can, man, definitely try and make it, man. It'd be cool to see you again. Robert says, I have Stephen King's Book of the Dark Half in my Audible wish list. I'll get to that sometime soon, I think. Yeah, that's another one I want to, especially the Romero stuff, I want to read just to kind of compare and contrast, I guess. But, okay, there you go. Throwing up the link there in the chat for the Night of Living Dead commentary that was on G4. G4, that's what it was. Sure thing I've done to watch / comment on more schlock. Hey, whatever, man. We need to do something else here soon. I just watched for next week's show, actually, which we'll talk about here at some point. But I just watched for the first time My Uncle John is a Zombie the other night on Tubi. Oh, that may be one we need to revisit for a live watch along, Synth. I don't know if you've seen that one or not, but goddamn, like it's It's barely a fucking movie, and that sings. I mean, in comparison to a lot of other Russo stuff, like it's barely a fucking coherent movie. And I wouldn't even say barely. It's just not. It's not a coherent movie at all. Um, but it is kind of charming to see John Russo playing a horny zombie, which is basically the only redeeming thing that movie has to offer. There's some laugh out loud moments in that movie, but it has nothing to do with the story or dialogue or anything that they were going for. Um, but yeah, wow, that was something. Steven says it's a little off subject, but I just watched two classic 70s films. Cool. Let's see what we got here. The Vanishing and Vanishing Point and The Outfit. The Outfit is especially timely because of the death of Robert Duvall. That's a good movie, and that's a good bringing up Robert Duvall. Yeah, the passing of Robert Duvall earlier this week. That was one that really kind of hit me. Because I've always been a big Robert Duvall fan. I think I got that from my dad because I think that's my dad's favorite actor. So growing up, like anything Robert Duvall did, like my dad was all about. I just recently watched The Outfit for the first time with him and Joe Don Baker. Really, really good movie. Really enjoyed that one. I can't believe I hadn't heard of it until here recently. But really dug that. But yeah, I loved Robert Duvall, man. Like anything he was in, like he just fucking shined. Um, you know, probably my favorite Robert Duvall. Like I've been thinking about that. What is my favorite Robert Duvall? Because I mean, there's so much you can choose from with Robert Duvall. Going all the way back to like To Kill a Mockingbird, like that was one that we used to watch all the time in high school, and I always loved that movie. Um, yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird, Apocalypse Now, Godfather, of course. But I think to me, like my favorite Robert Duvall performance is probably The Apostle from what was that 99, I think, The Apostle. He's just so good and so just magnetic as there's just that southern preacher, and he does it so well. By the end of that movie, I want to be a southern preacher. Like I want to go around and tell you like it is. I'll tell you like it is. The Lord is coming to see us. I want to do that after watching that movie because he fucking captures that so well. And growing up in the South, like I've seen fucking preachers like that before, and it's just like he fucking nails it in The Apostle. It's such a strange movie. It's such a good movie because it's basically about a preacher who like a real hardcore devout preacher, but I think he's an alcoholic in it as well. Very flawed, very sinful preacher, ends up murdering his ex-wife's new husband and then going on the run and going into hiding in the deep South and opening up a small church down south and saving a bunch of people. It's really, really a good movie. It's got Billy Bob Thornton in it as well as like this racist local who wants to tear down the church, and it's a really good movie. So I think The Apostle might be my favorite um, Robert Duvall role. Off the top of my head that I've been thinking about. But yeah, there's just so many to choose from. He just such a great actor. Um, Another good one that I watched not too long ago for the first time is called A Family Thing with him and James Earl Jones, where he kind of plays like like kind of a bit of a racist Southern, but he comes to find out that he has a long lost half brother who's played by James Earl Jones, and so they meet. So it's kind of a I don't know, it's a little charming, heartwarming movie. Um, but there's definitely a lot of funny and serious adult shit in that movie as well. But what about you guys? What are you any good any favorite Duvall performances or films? The Outfit is definitely a good one for sure. If you have a chance, check them out. Yep, way ahead of you, sir. Way and Vanishing Point. I remember watching a long time ago. I don't remember too much about it off the top of my head, but it's definitely one I wouldn't mind checking out again. I just watched Zabriskie Point for the first time the other night. If you guys have seen Zabriskie Point from 1970, I think the epitome of like late 60s, early 70s hippie movies is Zabriskie Point. The movie itself, I didn't much care for, but man, is it because it's Antonioni? Antonioni, I think, was the director of that one. Didn't much care for the characters or the story or anything that happened in that movie, but it's one of the most beautiful fucking movies that I've ever seen. Like just the shots in it, like it's so ahead of its time. Like it looks like it was just something that would have been made in the past 5 years. It was made in like 1970. Like it's a beautiful, beautiful fucking movie to look at. And if you're a big fan of watching hippies fuck in the desert, that's the one for you. Zabriskie Point, 1970. Matt says it's one of his more popular titles, but if you're wanting to read one because of Romero being attached, read Pet Sematary, much more disturbing than the film. Yeah, that's one I wouldn't mind reading too. I forget, man. I really do forget like all the fucking shit that Stephen King wrote. Like I always forget that Pet Sematary is a Stephen King book initially. Like I know that it's a Stephen King book, but it's not one that immediately like pops into my head when I think of Stephen King for some reason. Um, but yeah, that's definitely that'll be definitely on the docket at some point too. I got a couple of books started now. Like I said, I've been working on that Romero's Independent Cinema. I have the Modern Masters of Horror over there. With it's the book that includes the story Clay, the short story Clay that Romero wrote in the '80s. It also has a short story from Stephen King in it as well. Gonna start that. I just finished a book the other day, that Shock Treatment book from the '60s. Um, like I said, also started Carrie, and I still need to finish Cinema Speculation, Tarantino Cinema Speculation. But that's one there's like that one I'm kind of jumping around on. Like I'll watch one of the movies in it, and then I'll read what Tarantino has to say about it. I think that's a fun way to do it. There's like 3 movies left that I need to tackle that I haven't seen yet. So yeah, and you got the link going. Chen says in Roger's voice when he is in Peter's arm, "I'm gonna try. Save your strength, man." Yeah, man. Hope you can make it. Hope you can make it. It's gonna be a good one. Michelle says I'm with Matt. Pet Cemetery is one of my faves. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Because I have his first 3. Well, not technically his first 3, but his first 3 big ones: Carrie, Salem's Lot, and The Shining. I have all 3 of those downstairs. So I'm trying to knock out those first 3 first. Larry says, I like the Russo zombie commercials the most. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like the movie itself, it feels like it should have just been a series of like YouTube videos. Because I get what they were going for. They were trying to like promote John Russo and drum up interest. Like you had the zombie lube and the zombie wine and stuff. And of course, the fucking song, which was stuck in my head after I saw the movie, the zum zombie dooby dum. That was stuck in my head for at least a day after I saw the fucking movie. But the movie itself is incoherent and unwatchable. Like some of it makes no sense. Like there's no story, there's nothing going on here. Like it starts one thing and then it just fucking veers off into different directions and you don't know why. It was I will say it was cool to see George Casana make a cameo in it. Of course, it has a Russ Striner cameo in it as well. Russ is kind of fun in it, but it was cool. It was nice to see George Casana reprise the role of the sheriff from Night of the Living Dead in it. The way that they used him was fucking awful, but again, like he's no longer with us, so it was just kind of nice to see George. But the way that they fucking spoiler alert, anybody, the way that they kill him in that is just like it's fucking stupid. Like it literally, like I felt a little pissed off inside, and the way that they did that. Um, I don't know. I'm sure we'll talk about this movie a lot more probably next week. I'm gonna guess. We'll see. Robert says it seems like Russo needs to stick with writing books and not making movies. That's probably a good idea. That's probably a fair assessment, I would say. Since says not seen that one yet. Barely a movie. Definitely worse. No. Like this makes fucking Midnight 2 look like Midnight at least. Like it's yeah, we're definitely gonna have to we're gonna have to do a watch along on that one for sure. Steven says at least Russo ain't destroying any more innocent art canvases. Yeah, anybody picked up any of those by the way from last week on eBay? The Russo sketches. I've literally thought about it. So, it says I love Duvall and Brando in The Godfather. The scene where he has to tell Vito and Sonny tell Vito that Sonny was killed. With Duvall gone, Pacino is the only main male cast of The Godfather alive. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, wow. I really thought of it that way, but yeah, it's kind of sad. Robert says I saw The Apostle in the theaters. Never seen a movie quite like it. Yeah, it's captivating, man. And I think he was I think he was just nominated for best actor that year. For the Oscar and Academy Awards for his performance in The Apostle. I think definitely deserved. Um, It says, yeah, R.I.P. Robert Duvall was great in the Apocalypse Now Colors. That's another good one that he was in. He was also in Falling Down too, wasn't he? He was the cop in Falling Down as well. His old Twilight Zone appearance was cool. Yeah, he man did a bunch of things. Lonesome Dove, man, you know, done a lot of it. I mean, 95 years old, man lived a full life. That's for sure. We should all be so fucking lucky. Like if I make it to 95, like I'll feel pretty good about it. But I'll be lucky to hit 65 probably. It'll be like, oh, it's time to retire. Nope. See you later. Who am I kidding? My generation, we're never going to retire. What are we talking about? Yeah, great line. Love the smell of napalm in the morning. One of the best lines in Apocalypse Now, for sure. Steven says, glad to hear you enjoyed the outfit. I first discovered it one very late night on cable back in the day. I believe the outfit is one of Duvall's lesser known classics. Yeah, it's one that doesn't get talked about a lot. Yeah, I just recently discovered it and I've never really heard of it. But that movie is a really good demonstration of not only Duvall, but I thought Joe Don Baker as well. I thought Joe Don Baker is a fucking badass in that movie. When he walks in, he talks to the secretary at the desk when they're going to rob the mobsters, and he tries to like talk his way in, and he once he realizes that she's not having it, he just fucking knocks her the hell out. It's just like, all right, I tried. I was like, that's great. It's a good movie, guys. If you haven't seen the outfit, that's a good one. That's from 73, I believe. 73, 74, something like that. It's a good one. Yeah, there you go. Robert Duvall plays a great hard ass cop, like in Colors and Falling Down. Absolutely. Robert, there's another thumbs up for the Pet Cemetery book, so I'll have to get on that for sure. Matt says I'm on Night of the Living Dead, the cinema of George Romero now. Is that that's the one? Or no, Night of the Living Dead. What was the one that you were reading the other day? That's one I need to get. It was the Adam Hart book, Adam Charles Hart's Raising the Dead, I think is the name of it. That's one I need. That's the one I need to tackle next after I finish the independent cinema book. I can't remember if I've read Night of the Living Dead. It sounds like I have. Feel like I have that over there, but I'm not gonna get up and go look. But I'm pretty sure I think I have that one. So you're saying Children of the Living Dead is a masterpiece compared? Yeah, actually, at least Children of the Living Dead actually has some semblance of a coherent plot. And it's got the first 10 minutes with Savini kicking ass. So, it's better than My Uncle John is a Zombie just for that alone. I'll say that. Todd says, if you could be any character from Dawn, who would it be? I always wanted to be the one random redneck drinking beer and having a good time while the world was collapsing around you. It's a good question. If I could be any character from Dawn, I mean, honestly, I've always wanted to be Peter. I've always wanted to be the strong, I got this type of guy, the one's always in control and always has a plan. But I'm probably honestly more like Flyboy. Just I want to be one of the guys, and I'm always tripping over my own dick and trying to make something happen, and it's just like, fucked up again. But if I could be any character in Dawn of the Dead, that's a good one. If I could be any character in Dawn of the Dead, I'd probably be the Howard Smith character, the television anchor who's sitting there talking to Richard France and drinking booze, because that's what I do on this channel. I sit here and I talk to knowledgeable, cool people while I sit and drink booze. So that would be my character. I would be the Howard Smith character in Dawn of the Dead. What you're saying just sounds like a bunch of people talking. Which, speaking of, I did want to mention this. Speaking of Howard Smith and that whole scene from Dawn of the Dead, one of the photo ops that was announced this week for the Living Dead weekend is a Richard France photo op with the TV studio setting. That's one that I might do, and I might get in costume. I might get a shirt and tie. I might bring a little bottle of vodka and just have a photo with Richard as he's yelling "dummy, dummy, dummies" at me. and I'm just sitting there with a bottle of booze. That popped into my head immediately when I saw that photo op. So I think I might have to do that one. But yeah, they did announce some different photo ops, so go check out Living Dead Weekend. Check out the photo ops that are available now. I'm guessing they'll probably add some more, but yeah, I think that one and the bench photo op, if they do with the main 3 cast members, I'm definitely gonna, because I'm taking advantage of this shit now while we still can. You know what I mean? Yeah, Raising the Dead. That's right. Yeah, I need to get on. I've seen that one on eBay. It's a little pricey, but I definitely need to get on that. And Robert says, does anyone know why the definitive $50 book of Night of the Living Dead on Amazon got delayed by almost a year? That's a good question. Are you talking about the one that Image 10 is putting out? I've actually seen some pages, some different pages and stuff on that. John Vulo has contributed to the I guess it's like the authorized official Night of the Living Dead book. So that one's going to be the Bible of Night of the Living Dead. Whenever that one comes out, that the official Image 10 book, that's going to be the one to have, because I mean it's got just from what I've seen, just a couple of pages that I've seen, it's going to be fucking amazing. So the definitive, the $50 book on Night, I'm not sure why it got delayed on Amazon. I haven't heard anything about that. So it's a great choice. Yeah. I'm telling you, man, that's me. And he's got the fucking mustache. Come on, man. I'm Howard Smith. I'm the guy on the TV getting yelled at by fucking Richard France. Peter was the ultimate strong, silent, funny, good fighter. Also knew esoteric stuff like how to do abortions. That's right. He's very knowledgeable, very experienced. Just says that'd be awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna do it. It says I would be the station manager and would just start playing dirty movies on the air just for the giggles. Hey, why not, man? You want ratings, man. The only thing that's going to beat those rescue stations on screen all the time, just pop in, Debbie Does Dallas or Deep Throat or something like that, and just say fuck it. Let's all go out having fun. Why not? Larry says, thank you for always talking about Living Dead Weekend promoting. Absolutely, man. It's an important part of my year every year. So it's not, I don't expect anything from it. I just, if you guys have watched my channel from day one, like that's always been kind of a big thing for me. It's like my Super Bowl. It's like, as a sportscaster, it's like everything's building to this moment. And honestly, if I'd never gone to a Living Dead Weekend or even, experienced the Living Dead Weekend, I probably would have never been inspired to do something like this, because it's like I've said in the past, it's like going to something like that and talking to people that are as passionate and excited about this stuff as you are. It's infectious. And I would come home and I would be like, oh man, I can't talk about this shit anymore. Like there's nobody to talk about it with here. Like that was so fun. And it only lasted a day or so. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to do it on here. I'm going to start a YouTube channel and talk about it. And luckily I found a lot of badass people like you guys to come on here and talk about it with me. So my plan worked. But absolutely, man. Jeff says I booked a few so far. I already spent close to $500 on different photo ops. I'm gonna be right there with you, man. I'm close. I'm close on that. Steven says the toughest part will probably be trying to find the tie. Those 70s ties were kind of wild. Yeah. I don't know if I'll be able to find like an actual one of those big ass ties that you can see, David Early wearing, or was it? David Early's got the big one. Which that was the style back in the day, man. Since as the honor guy and Don made a movie called Gizmo. That's right. I think I remember hearing that. Yeah. That might be one I need to track down. That'd be interesting. Yeah, right, Larry. I would not be surprised if that night book was delayed because Vulo keeps adding more stuff to it. Yeah, that's honestly probably it. If I don't know, that's probably honestly the God's honest truth. He keeps finding more shit to put in it. I kind of feel like I remember him telling me that now that you say that, actually. That says, definitely hopping on the Richard France photo op. Might have to do another bench photo too. Yeah. I'm curious to see what other what other photo ops? Because like I said, the photo ops at Living Dead Weekend, it's not like they just put up a fucking curtain and you stand in front of it, take a quick picture, and move on. It's like it's pretty involved. There's props. There's background. Like it's a 3-dimensional scene that you're in while you get the photo. Going back to the Ritz photo that Matt was kind enough to include us in. Super fucking cool with Terry and Jarlath. But yeah, they always do stuff like that. Living Dead Weekend, like they work their asses off on this show every year. Like you definitely get your money's worth. Like I said, it's not like I'm paying $120 for a photo op and I just go and I stand in front of this curtain with somebody who's completely disinterested in being near me. It's nothing sadder than seeing a photo op with a celebrity and the celebrity's just like leaning away from the person. It's just like and that photo is going to be on that person's wall and people, it's just like, god damn. Like how it's sad, really. It's just sad. Since the station manager had time to make a zombie porn parody and air it just because, I don't know if with an actual zombie, I don't know if I'd want to see that actually. That probably that might I'm pretty open minded, but that might be my limit right there. Just says Andy posted a really cool tour that Larry gave. Yeah, that's right. Go check out Synth's channel. He just premiered the other night. Larry's tour, which you can see and hear all the sights and sounds of all of us bullshitting around on the tour as well. That was a lot of fun watching that the other night and kind of reliving, kind of going back and reliving it. It was pretty fun. Robert says at this point the book's coming out on August 18th of this year. We'll see though. Yeah, if John will, relax and say enough is enough. But hey, get it all in while you can, man, because it's going to be, like I said, literally the Bible for Night of the Living Dead fans. Michelle says, I love those photo ops. I have 4 booked already. Of course you do, Michelle. Of course you do. Synth says, thanks. Some more uploads to come. Just been busy. Yeah, that's the thing about Synth. All weekend long, Living Dead weekend, he's recording and filming, and Synth's got so much shit that he's still yet to upload. Definitely go check out his channel. Go subscribe to Synth's channel because there's going to be more to come. That's for sure. All right. I'm officially caught up. Hour and 15 in. All right, let's get to the meat of the matter tonight. I'm sure most of you guys have been waiting for. Crack open another Guinness here before we start. So I can be nice and hammered while we look at these photos. But yeah, we're going to take a deep dive into these photos. I got these photos in a presentation here, like a slideshow presentation. So, and I got them zoomed in different spots and different stuff we can talk about. But so it should be fun. Let me go ahead and pull these up. I guess before I'll do that, I'll tell you guys. I'll tell you the story of how I came across these. Excuse me. So of course I'm on eBay. I'm always on eBay looking, George Romero, Dawn of the Dead, Creepshow, Martin, just always looking, seeing what I can find. A lot of the times it's stuff that either I already have or it's stuff that's just way out of my price range and it's just never going to happen. But I was just scrolling, I came across these photos and immediately caught my eye because I was like, I don't think I've ever seen these before. Like most on set behind the scenes photos, I feel like I've seen, whether it's, production stills or, just regular behind the scenes stuff. A lot of the times I feel like I've seen them before. I can get an idea of where they came from. These photos never seen before. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And the starting bid on it was like $10. And I was like, all right, well, I got to get a bid on this. So $10. We'll see where this goes. I was the first bidder. I think it was only up for like maybe a day or so. Either way, eventually I got into a bidding war with one other person, which I assumed was Larry. I was like, this is probably Larry. Larry's probably got an eye on these. I guess it was. I don't know who I was bidding against, but if you're out there and you're watching, hey, it was a fun competition. Ended up winning the bid. and ended up winning these photos. But they are photos from the set of Creepshow from the day of shooting that took place August 23rd, I think. It was the day that they were shooting the crate scene, the party scene from the crate when they're outside, and Hal Holbrook shoots Adrienne Barbeau and says, "Wilma, not a thing, Wilma," and then everybody starts clapping. It was from that day of shooting, and it's just it's a group of photos. You can see various people out in the street talking. I'm guessing it was after they had finished shooting, and there's definitely some people in it that you guys are going to recognize, but there were a few people in it that I had no clue who they were, but they seemed like important people that we should know. So I started doing some research, and I'll tell you what I found. But I won the bid. I ended up messaging the guy that was selling these on eBay. Just asking it, where did you get these photos? Can you tell me anything about them? Do you know any of the people in these photos? Like, were you a part of the crew? Who are you, basically? His name is David Askin, and he wrote me back. I'm going to read you exactly what he wrote to me, and just kind of explaining where these photos came from and how he came across these photos. Spit that out so I can read without a mouthful of fucking Zenfidelity here. But yeah, it's a guy named David Askin. He was apparently just a neighbor that lived a couple of houses down from where they were shooting this scene on Beacon Street in Pittsburgh. So I sent him a message and I was saying, "Hey, well, what can you tell me about these photos? Has anybody seen these photos before? Have you ever published these anywhere? Like, tell me about these." So he messaged me back, and this is what he said. His name's David Askin. He said, "Wow, when I posted these, I couldn't actually imagine anyone actually wanting them. I've kept them in a box with old postcards and first day covers for decades." So that immediately tells me, like, okay, nobody's ever seen these before. He literally threw them in a box and just forgot about them until recently. And I think it's funny. He was just like, "I don't think anybody would give a shit about these." I'm like, "Oh, you don't know, sir." There are psychopaths like myself that jumped all over these things. So then he goes on to write, "Okay, here it goes. Creepshow was released in 1982, so these were taken by me in 1981 or 1982 when the film was being shot. I graduated high school in 1984. I lived on blah 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 Beacon Street in Squirrel Hill, a predominantly Jewish area of the city of Pittsburgh. So that's where the party scene was shot for the crate. It was on Beacon Street in Pittsburgh. It's a fairly popular location for Romero fans. I know quite a few people that have been to that location before. It's one that I haven't yet to go to, but definitely going to see it now because I have some kind of personal connection to it now. Anyway, he goes on and says, "If you lived in Pittsburgh at that time, you certainly knew George Romero as he filmed." This is funny, like you can tell, like as he filmed the zombie film Night of the Living Dead in Monroeville outside of Pittsburgh in 1968. So it's one of those things you can tell he was not a fan of Romero, not a fan of the movies. He just kind of knew of Romero, and you always hear like people get those mixed up. It's like Night of the Living Dead was filmed in Monroeville, or Dawn of the Dead was shot in Pittsburgh. So he just kind of had a general idea of who George was. I guess I heard or read, I was a newspaper boy at the afternoon Pittsburgh Press, that a film was being shot on Beacon Street in the next block. I had a 35 millimeter camera and zoom lens and just went up there one afternoon and stood around waiting. When I saw King, Romero, and Holbrook standing around, I just took some pictures. I never went up to them or bothered them. I didn't think they noticed me. I had heard that the house they were filming at had been rented out for the filming. Although I knew the owner of the adjacent home, I did not know who owned the house that they rented out. I had the photos developed along with the rest of the roll and just put them in a box. I don't think I ever bothered to even show anyone. You may be the only other person that's ever seen them. So of course, they've never been published or displayed ever to anyone." So yeah, he just snapped some pictures, developed the roll, and threw them in a box to where they stayed until now, pretty much. I probably have the negative somewhere, but it'll not be easy to find. I took a lot of photos as a teenager. It's totally ironic, but to this day, I've never seen Creepshow and I've never read a Stephen King book. I was just intrigued that some celebrities were filming a movie on my street, nothing more really. That's all I can remember after all these years. It's awesome that someone found them useful all these decades later. He goes on to say, I left Pittsburgh for college and law school and now live in Houston, Texas, where I've worked in ExxonMobil's law department for 33 plus years. So just a guy, wasn't a fan of the movies. He says he still has yet to see Creepshow, has never read a Stephen King book, just happened to be living in the neighborhood, pulled out a camera, snapped some pictures, and and yeah, and just like I said, developed them, threw them in a box, and forgot about them until recently, and then just threw them up on eBay for $10, and maybe somebody'd want them. So now I will pull these up, and we will take a look at these photos. I'll go ahead and just show you the actual photos that I have in hand here. There's one. You can see George there. Like I said, I have these. I'll put these up so we can get a better look at these, but I'll just show you that the actual photos. You see George there. Another good. There's a lot of glare, which is why I wanted to have give a better shot at these. You can see some of the crew in the background. There's George talking to someone there. These are pretty cool. This shot, let's see if it'll focus on it. You can see George, and you can see Stephen King standing over there off to the side. So now we do know that Stephen King was actually on the set of Creepshow during that day, which I did not know. And another photo here. We can see Stephen. We're all bunched around talking. Like I said, I'm assuming these are after the day of shooting. I'll go ahead and throw these up for you guys to see a little clearer. There we go. So yeah, this first photo here, you can see George standing there with an armful of probably script and call sheets and whatever else he would have had at the time. And he's talking to two gentlemen here, which upon first looking at these photos, I had no idea who either one of them were. One of which I still do not know. One I was able to track down and figure out, and I felt very proud of myself. I felt very John Vulo proud of myself at this one. But we can see George here standing here in the driveway talking to these two gentlemen. There's a closer look at him. So the guy here on the far left, you can see him with the mustache here. He is very clearly, you can clearly see him in the party scene in Creepshow. The guy standing here in the white shirt is a better look. This is a different photo. You can see him leaning up against this car here. George talking to these two right here. There's crew. You can see various crew members and stuff in the far background here, but I can't. I've looked. It's kind of hard to tell who any of these people are. You can definitely see a guy over here on the far left-hand side of the car who looks sort of familiar, but I can't quite make out who that might be. He kind of looks like Joe Spinell, honestly. But yeah. The guy here in the white shirt is a guy that I had not heard of until I received these photos and actually did a little digging, did a little research, and found out that he's a guy by the name of Richard Hawley, who turned out to be one of the first ADs on the set of Creepshow. He would go on to work in the industry after Creepshow. He was a producer for the film Seabiscuit. He was a producer on the film The Hunted, William Friedkin's The Hunted in the early 2000s. But basically his role, which he's actually not credited in Creepshow. You will not see his credit on Creepshow, but his role was basically like as assistant first. So basically, I guess I'll just tell you the whole thing of what his role is and how he came to be a part of the crew here. Basically, he didn't last long. He was hired by Laurel Show, basically at the behest of UFDC, United Film Distribution Company, because George's last film, Night Riders, went over schedule, over budget, and really didn't make a big splash at the box office. So Salah Hassanein and UFDC wanted to make sure that this production of Creepshow was on time, under budget, and make sure everything was working as it should. So they hired and brought in this guy over here on the left in the white shirt, Richard Hawley, to be the first assistant director to George. Now, he was a very by the book, very stiff guy, like, everything, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Whereas George was more experimental. He was like the opposite. Like, by the script, everything has to be on time, on budget. And so he clashed with George. Like, apparently, like, they did not work well together. He would actually eventually be let go and replaced by a guy named what was his name? Carl Clifford. Same kind of role, same, you know, same job title, but eventually, for the same reasons, he and George did not get along on the set. He would be let go, and that's where John Harrison was brought in to be the assistant director on this, because they kind of worked a little better that way. Because Harrison and George were friends. Um, and even then, eventually, they were still kind of over time, over budget, and that's when David Ball was introduced. And of course, David Ball would go on to work with George as basically, he's credited as co-producer on Day of the Dead, but he was technically the on-set producer of Day of the Dead. Um, and of course, he would go on to produce Creepshow 2, but he was basically United Film Distribution's company and Laurel's guy to kind of, there's the interview that you can see David Ball talking about working on Day of the Dead, where he said he's kind of like the oil can guy. He's just going around making sure everything was running smoothly and on time and on budget. And George didn't like that. George was not. George didn't like these guys. George was not a fan of Richard Hawley. Although it was funny, it's funny to find out that Hawley would actually work with George again years later on The Dark Half. He was a consulting producer on The Dark Half. So I don't know what he did in that role, but yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. So yeah, initially Richard Hawley was the original first AD on Creepshow. He would be replaced by Carl Clifford. Clifford would be replaced by Harrison, and then Harrison would eventually be replaced by David Ball. Interesting turn of events, but that was all based on the failure of Night Riders, and the failure for that George being overly experimental and trying different things and not staying on schedule and staying under budget. Which you can tell, like that's how George preferred to work. And I think you can see that now when you look at Dawn of the Dead, and you look at Night Riders, and you can see how much was shot. And Martin, perfect example. Like, we all talk about the 2.5 hour cut of Martin. George loved to shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot, and eventually bring it together in the editing. Whereas by the time you get to Creepshow and he's working with bigger budgets and more constraints, he needed somebody on set to kind of say, hey, let's keep it rolling. Let's keep it rolling. Because at this point, Richard was not really as involved on set as he was earlier in George's career, like in Martin and Dawn. He was more of like in the office kind of guy. They talk about in Day of the Dead, he would kind of show up once a week to check in and make sure everything was okay, and then he'd go back to the office. Like, he was barely on set. So yeah, and I just thought, it was interesting. I'd never heard of this guy before, but I was like, who is that guy? Like, I got to find that guy. And somehow, some way, did a little research, did a little digging, and found out that he was, and he actually had, like I said, had a career in Hollywood after the fact. Here he is on set with director James Ivory. They worked on quite a few films together in the late 90s, early 2000s, films like The Divorce, The Golden Bowl, The White Countess, films I'm not particularly aware of or know what the fuck they are. But yeah, he continued and had a pretty successful career in Hollywood after the fact. So, but yeah, so now we've identified somebody new, a new face in the Creepshow crew. It's fucking Richard Hawley, Hawley. So I just thought that was an interesting turn of events there. I always heard that about David Ball, and I knew David Ball was not a big fan of George's. Like I forget where it was, maybe in the Day of the Dead book, where he's quoted as saying he was fairly unimpressed with George. But I think it's not as much with his um, artistic aspects of George as much as the director, because when in Hollywood, a director is mostly there to be on time, stay under budget, and not lose money. And if you can do that in Hollywood, then you'll work for fucking ever. If you can, and that's why you see all these directors that have had these long careers in Hollywood, but you couldn't name a trait or a certain style that they had. Um, but they were great at staying under budget, getting the shit in on time, and not losing money. And if you can do that, you can work forever. And George was always the independent spirit, man. And George wanted to just he had a vision and he wanted to just get everything he could and whatever the budget. George was he needed to be reined in sometimes. He needed somebody like Rubenstein. Rubenstein was talking about I'm giving you the box, I'm giving you the parameters. Once I tell you this is where you can play, you can do whatever you want. And that's why I think George and Richard worked so well together, because George was a producer that was willing to give George that type of creative freedom. Whereas you can see later on in George's career, it wasn't quite like that. I think George kind of realized that, especially like around Monkey Shines, Dark Half. It was different. So yeah, this is the first guy that was assigned to George's. Richard Hawley was the first guy that was really assigned to George's sets to kind of crack the whip and keep him on keep him on track. And I just think George really, didn't work well with that, and really had no use for those fucking types. But yeah, so that's him. And then here's another photo that I got. You can see Richard there on the left. The guy here with the mustache, man. We're going to talk about him, but I cannot pinpoint who that guy is. Like I said, he's very visible in the party scene. I would chalk it up to he's just an extra who was there for the day. But the fact that looks like he's kind of in the inner circle makes me think that he's somebody of importance, maybe. But I haven't been able to pinpoint him yet. But the guy that's standing here with the white shirt and the pants, you can just see the back of his head in this photo. There's a better photo of him coming up here in just a second. But that is Chuck Aber, who plays Richard. What's his last name? I've written down. Richard Raymond, who from the party scene, who was, of course, married to Christine's character. Adrian Barbeau drags away and he's like, honey, these folks are dry. Help them out, that's that guy. Which let's see if there's and yeah, there's some folks back here. I don't know. Can anybody pinpoint who any of these people are? I have no idea. They're probably just like grips or people that were there to work for the day. I don't know if they're anybody of any importance. But yeah, I couldn't identify any of those guys either. But so yeah, so this is a pretty cool photo here of George talking to Chuck, and of course Chuck was kind of a popular name that worked around Pittsburgh for quite a few years. I mean, he had not only this role in Creepshow, but he was mostly known for his recurring role on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He was Neighbor Aber on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And then, of course, I think after Creepshow, I think he had, what else did he have here? Silence of the Lambs. He had a role in Silence of the Lambs, Two Evil Eyes. And last but definitely not least, that I have written down here, John Russo's Heartstopper. I was gonna say Heartbreaker. I was like, sounds fun. So yeah, he was just kind of a local Pittsburgh guy, local Pittsburgh actor. Let's see here. Yeah, you can see him a little better here on the left-hand side of this photo. So this is a cool photo because this one you can see Stephen King over there on the far right-hand side. And he's talking to who we will come to see is Christine Romero. And you can see George talking to, it looks like he's talking to somebody off screen. So he's probably talking to somebody that's carrying something into a van or who knows. But the interesting thing about Chuck here And it took me a minute to really pinpoint, because if you look at him and you kind of think like of, you kind of think, okay, so yeah, that's definitely that guy. For a second, like, yeah, you take a closer look at him. The interesting thing about that kind of threw me off, the glasses. He's wearing glasses in this. I guess Chuck wore glasses in real life, where he's not in the film. But the thing that threw me off about, like, oh, well, is that actually him? For a second, I thought it was Gornick, but I was like, no, that's not Gornick. That's definitely not Gornick. The thing that threw me off, yeah, here he is. That's Chuck there on the left hand side of this photo. That's Chuck. But the thing that threw me off was that he's holding a slate in the bag. So I was thinking maybe he was somebody that was working with Gornick, like he was. I thought maybe he was the slate guy, maybe, but no, it's definitely Chuck. You can tell by the hair, and the shirt, and I also think it's funny if you look here, he's wearing flip flops. I don't know why, that just caught me off guard when I zoomed in. I was like, that dude's wearing flip flops. That dude is in full comfort mode at this point. Like, the job is fucking done. Like, let's take this shit and get out of here. But I think it also just shows that, like, yeah, Chuck was just there for the day to act, and Larry helped me out a lot on this one, just to verify who that it was Chuck, because like I said, Larry actually has the call sheet for this day of filming, and on the call sheet is Chuck, and it has everybody listed. And it also had Richard Hawley listed as the first AD at the top, and I was like, I knew that was him. So big shout out to Larry, man, for having that handy and digging that out for me. But yeah, it just goes to show that just a guy that was there for the day to act, a small role in this one scene, is carrying around the slate and helping carry equipment and whatever's in that bag. I don't know, maybe it's his own personal belongings, but I just thought it was interesting that he's carrying the slate here. I was like, oh man, that just goes to show kind of the atmosphere of a Romero film, where everybody's working, doing something else to kind of help the collective out. Um, but yeah, so that's Chuck. And then this photo here, this is a really great photo. This is a close up where you can really see there's Steve King there on the right talking to Christine, George on the left. And again, these two people right here, the guy in the suit here, that's the guy in the mustache earlier. And the lady next to them are both, you can see them clear as day in the film. I actually sent a still, like a snapshot from the film and these photos to Mike Gornick the other day, just to see if he had any recollection or knew who they were. I haven't heard back from him yet, so we'll stay tuned. We'll see if he gets back to me on that. He may not know, but it's very possible. Let's see here. Yeah, there's another photo here. This is a different photo where you can see them a little better. You can really see Christine's face there, right in the middle. Steve King standing there off to the side with a beer in his hand, which par for the course for where he was at this time in his life. There you go. A closer look at it. You can see the beer in Steve's hand. I'm guessing it's a beer. Maybe it may be a soda. I don't know, but especially after reading on writing and then hearing about Stephen King's, where he was in his life at this time, I'm guessing it's probably a good chance that it was a beer. But yeah, you can see Christine there in the middle, George off to the side. There's a lady there, a blonde lady, right there. There's no way in hell I could ever tell who that is unless she's wearing that outfit in the party scene. If I could find her in the party scene, maybe. But again, it's really mysterious to me who these two people are in the middle here. The guy with the mustache, the lady in the polka dot dress, because they're kind of there. They're standing there with Stephen King and George Romero and Christine, and they're not just extras. They were not just there for the day. They got to be either somebody associated with the production, associated with the production company or something. They got to be somebody, or they may just be friends of George or somebody like that, because in the Creepshow commentary with Mike Gornick on the Scream Factory Blu-ray /4K, Gornick does mention that a lot of the party guests, because you can see, I think Richard Rubenstein is one of the party guests. Molly McCloskey's mom, Carol McCloskey, is one of the party guests. You can see the Rev, Richard Ritchie, is one of the party guests. They're all just like friends and acquaintances and family members of the cast and crew. So they could just be, friends of the Romeros or something like that. I don't know. But I'm desperate to find out because those are the main two from these photos that I've yet to pinpoint. And there, yeah, you can see these two right here on the far right hand side are the people that I'm. If you have information on who these people are, please write to contact alpharomero@gmail.com. Please let me know, somebody. I'm desperate to find out now. But yeah, I mean, they're prominently, I mean, all through the scene, you can see them moving around, walking around the background. But this is, the best shot of both of them, and I've yet to figure out who they are. But they got to be somebody because they're hanging out with they're having a beer with Stephen King on the set of Creepshow, so they got to be somebody of importance. Um, but yeah, just really really cool stuff. These photos have never been seen before. You guys are the first to see these photos outside of me and whoever was bidding on them against me, and maybe anybody that came across them on eBay. But you guys are the first people to see these photos other than me and Mr. Askin. And big shout out to Mr. Askin for finding these and having the wherewithal to put them up on eBay. So somebody who loves and appreciates this stuff like me and like we all do was able to get a hold of these and take a look. And it's really opened up the door for me. It really, inspired. It's really stuff like this is inspiring to me. That's why I love what John Vulo does, and I totally get what he does and how he goes down a rabbit hole and just starts like, oh my god, I got to find out more because it gives you a better understanding, especially like we were like what I was talking about earlier with the Richard Hawley guy. It gives you a better understanding of the production and the different challenges that the production presented to George and the rest of the crew and it just I don't know. I just love stuff like this. I hope you guys enjoy it too, because this is a super nerd out thing. Like you got to be really really into this shit to be digging this deep into this stuff. But hey, that's what we're here to do, man. That's what we're fucking here to do. But I just love this shot here. It's particularly Stephen King with the beer, Christine in the middle, George off to the side, just having discussions, hanging out after the shots. So, but yeah. But again, if anybody knows who the fuck these two people are, please let me know. Get with me. I'm still going to be looking. I'm still going to try to figure it out. I thought maybe it might be the homeowners, possibly the people that own the house that they shot. That could still be a possibility, but I don't think so. I've done some research on who owned the house at the time and how old they would have been at the time, and it doesn't quite match up. So I don't think that's who it is. But yeah. But yeah, like you can see here, the lady in this blue here, that's Carol McCloskey. You might recognize her from Martin. She's Molly McCloskey's mom. She's the one, and Martin is like, Martin, you're lazy. You're a lazy boy. And then Martin follows her around Braddock. That's her. The guy back here with the mustache looks familiar. Is that the guy from Effects? That's who he looks like to me. I'm not sure, but looks like the dude from Effects to me. But anyway, but yeah, there we have it. So you guys are the first people ever to see these photos, and move that. Pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. I'm probably gonna frame those and put them up somewhere. But yeah, again, like it's just cool to see these things. It's good. I love that. I'm glad that I have these so I can kind of preserve them and because Lord knows somebody like like that, like God bless him, doesn't know or care about any of this stuff. He said it himself. He's not a Romero fan. He's not a horror fan. He's never read a Stephen King book. He's never even seen Creepshow. I told him that. I messaged him back. I was like, dude, check it out. Like, it's actually a really good, really fun movie. I don't know if you're into horror or not, but check it out. But super, super cool guy. I was so nice of him to actually message me back with all that information, actually tell me the whole story of, of being there and just taking the photos and the fact that he just developed the role, threw him in a box and forgot about him all these years and until now. Was pretty cool, but But yeah, I just thought it was a fun story, and like I said, just opened up the door for me to go down the rabbit hole and find out more about this production, and just do some research, do my Vulo detective work, and try to pinpoint who some of these people are. Um, but what do you guys think? What do you guys think about anybody? I may have missed it. Somebody may have pointed out who the fuck these people are. I don't know, but let me see here. I think Larry says I missed them. It wasn't okay. So it wasn't you in the auction. I didn't think it was, but when I was bidding at the time, I was thinking like, oh, I think I'm in a bidding war with Larry, which I'm used to fucking losing though. So I was fully expecting to lose that bidding war if it was you. And the fact that I won kind of made me think like, ah, maybe that wasn't me. Maybe that wasn't Larry. um, he said I didn't see that auction at all. You're lucky. Yeah, I am lucky. I am lucky because I'd have to bring you on here to do this for me. So, um, there you go. 6410 Beacon Street. The tree is gone. That's right. Um, yeah, that's a location, a Romero location that I've yet to check out. That I'm definitely planning on checking out in June when I'm back up that way. I've come around on Creepshow, man. I think just talking to Felsher a couple weeks ago, like, and I say I've come around on Creepshow. It's not that I've ever been like anti Creepshow or been like, ah, fuck Creepshow. Never been like that. But if you go back and you watch, especially like the hot takes roundtable that we did with Matt, and Michelle, and Andy, and Paul, like there was definitely I was definitely not down on Creepshow, but Creepshow's always been kind of one of those movies that I've just never had quite the amount of love and appreciation for that I feel like I should have. But I feel like I'm coming around on that. Because I've watched it a couple of times this past couple of weeks, honestly, to be honest. I've watched it a couple of times, and there's certain aspects of that movie that I just think are fucking brilliant and just flawless. I still think it's one of the best comic book movies ever made. Because literally, and this is something that I've noticed recently in going back and revisiting it, every shot in that film works as a piece of the comic book. Like every shot of the movie feels like it could be animated for the comic book. And I think there's just something so brilliant, technically brilliant about that. Like even just every, like I said, like literally every shot in Creepshow feels like I could totally picture it in my mind, the animated comic book version of that. Um, I just think technically it's one of George's best movies. Technically speaking, I just think it's and the stories are fun, the performances are great, the soundtrack is amazing. There's not a lot to dislike about Creepshow, and especially landing these photos and kind of digging into some of the backstory and finding out more about the production of Creepshow. Like I said, I think I've definitely come around on a little more, and there's yeah, so. Um, yeah, I thought so too, Seth. I was like, yeah, I was like, is this real? Like, did nobody else see this shit? Sometimes you just get lucky. Sometimes you just get lucky. Jen says, I feel like I just made a mortal sin watching an AI parody of Dawn. Blasphemy. Yeah, there are definitely some of those out there. Like I said, that I do feel like kind of dirty watching, but the Elvis one is fun. I'm telling you. I think it's kind of fun. It does capture. It's like an alternate universe. It captures that like what if Dawn of the Dead was remade, but with Elvis, and in some weird way, it kind of captures the essence of the original film. I can't explain it, but I've only seen it once, and it was just kind of like yeah, man, yeah. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, it was. I feel pretty lucky. I'm glad I got my hands on them. Um, Nathan, what's going on, man? I was just mentioning you earlier, actually. An AI parody, that sounds wild. Yeah, there's a lot out there now of Dawn stuff I've seen lately. Some really bad, some actually kind of entertaining. But I think that's just part for the course of where we're headed going forward on planet Earth. There's gonna be a lot of AI parodies and shit out there. So yeah, the old boxy '80s U.S. cars. Yeah, real nice stuff. I was looking to see if I could find Dexter's car from the film, the convertible that he drives, but didn't see that in the background anywhere. There is one photo here where you can see somebody across the street in one of the houses, like watching from their porch. I thought was kind of cool. Um, just kind of standing there watching. Oh, well, what the hell's going on here? Yeah, I know. I just love it. It just captures a moment in history. Like to me, like this stuff is as important to me as like finding something from fucking Gettysburg or something. So it's just like a piece of history that's it's like, oh wow, this they were standing out in the driveway talking after shooting, and Stephen King was there with his beer, and Richard Hawley, who is that guy? Oh, okay, George hated him. Okay, I could see that. What else did he do? Um, why is Chuck Aber wearing fucking flip flops? That's interesting. I love old school cars. Yeah. Steven says, "Wow, what serendipity! Not even a fan of horror, even Hollywood. Congratulations on your pickup." Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, and and that's kind of how you find some of these stuff. It's people that are in possession of this stuff that have no love or affinity for it. That's usually the ones that where you're gonna find the special stuff that's out there because they don't know what they have and they don't think that anybody else really gives a shit about it. But that's also kind of the scary thing about a lot of stuff. It's like, especially when you think about like the Martin black and white 2.5 hour cut, that film reel that was just film reel film reel. The Guinness is kicking in, guys. Uh, the film reel. What the fuck was I saying? That's kind of the scary thing about stuff like that is because you never know who has that, who is in possession of it, and they may think like, "Oh, who gives a shit about this? This is garbage," and just throw it away. Like we're so lucky that they didn't just find that reel and was just like, "Oh, this is just junk from back in the day." Like, yeah, let's clear this out. Luckily, that was found. Luckily, these photos were found, and there's probably so much more stuff out there like that people just have and just don't think anything of, and will sadly nobody will ever see. And that's the sad thing about it, and that's why I get so excited when I find just oh, here's a group of photos that I took just one day out of the blue just because I heard somebody was filming a movie. I was just like, oh my god, like you have history in your hands, sir. What are you doing? So I love whether it's me or anybody else, if they any preservation of this stuff just fucking makes me happier than a pig in shit. Um, you see Frank Sinatra in the background. Holy shit, I didn't know that. I missed that. I missed that. Was he one of the crew members? It was a rough period during Frank's life. He was working in the crew of Creepshow. George's outfit looks like Scrubs. Yeah, this is it does kind of, it's black and white. I don't know what color it actually was. But this is definitely pre, vest, which George had, George just had a look by the end of his, I think UB mentioned mentioned in like the Discord or something like that. He's like, why was George always dressed like he was ready for a fishing trip by the end of his life? I was like, yeah. But you can see his scarf. He had, the lucky scarf hanging from his waist there that we would all come to know and love. But yeah, George always had that kind of relaxed look, the button up, open, the hamburger meat flowing out type of look going on. He was always just a cool, laid back kind of guy. They do look like Scrubs. The black guy from Clueless. Are you talking about the black guy from, what is his name? I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name off the top. Donald Faison, I think his name is. The black guy from Clueless. Larry said, yeah, David Ball talked mad shit about George in the Making a Day book. Yeah, I thought I remember reading that. And it's understandable. They come from two different schools of filmmaking. Like David Ball was, by the book, very, Hollywood studio way of doing things. And George was just, the bohemian free spirit, like, this is my movie and I'm going to do what I want type of thing, which is kind of what led to the disintegration of him and Richard's working relationship with Laurel. That's kind of one of the things I think that kind of soured the business relationship between UFDC as well. They made Night Riders, and of course, originally after Night Riders, they were going to do Shooby Dooby Moon, which didn't happen because after the failure of Knight Riders, they wanted to do UFTC wanted him to do something more. They weren't going to finance anything other that wasn't commercial because Knight Riders failed because they couldn't say, "Oh, it's George Romero, the master of horror." Kind of like the success of Martin and Dawn of the Dead was, heavily predicated on this is George Romero, the guy from Night of the Living Dead. Knight Riders being not a horror film, they couldn't really promote it as a horror film. The closest I think they ever got was like, they added like, from the master of action and suspense, George A. Romero. So yeah, I mean, this was kind of the beginning of the end of all those working relationships because George was not interested in being the business guy. I mean, he was the co-president or whatever of Laurel at the time, and yeah, I don't know. I've just been, like I said, I've been digging into this book a lot lately, and a lot of that is in there. It's really interesting stuff. But yeah, I just thought that the Richard Hawley character was like, oh, I see, and this is the guy that would eventually lead to David Ball coming in, and David. Just like I said, just two completely different schools of filmmaking. You know, can easily understand how they butted heads for sure. Steven says art and finance rarely work well together. Unfortunately, however, most everything in Hollywood works that way. Yeah, you're right. I think that's why George never was never a successful Hollywood director. You look at a lot of George's contemporaries from that time, guys like Brian De Palma, guys like William Friedkin, the guys that kind of came up around that same time, like they all eventually settled into being Hollywood guys. Like we mentioned Friedkin earlier, doing The Hunted, and a lot of Friedkin's later stuff is just Hollywood stuff. Like he was able to play the game. De Palma the same way. I mean, people forget that Brian De Palma directed Mission Impossible, which is crazy to think about, but it eventually it worked out that way. I think George tried to be that guy, tried to, especially in the 90s, tried to fit that fit that mold, but it just wasn't. That wasn't George, man. George was I want to tell my story. Give me couple of $1,000,000, I'll do it real cheap. But George was not interested in just being there to make sure that everything was on time and under budget, and that's all Hollywood cares about when they pick a director. Very rarely will you see a director like a Quentin Tarantino or somebody more modern like a Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, Kubrick back in the day. The directors were like, okay, here's a bunch of money, go do whatever you want because we know you have a track record that this is going to be big money. Most of the time, and I think that's the thing that ruins a lot of great filmmakers, man. There's so many, especially when I think of like the early 2000s, there were so many filmmakers. Just trying to think off the top of my head. Brad Anderson is one that I know that people, people tout like Session 9 and stuff like that. Brad Anderson's one. Lucky McKee is one that with May, like these filmmakers that come out of nowhere, and it's like, oh wow, this director has so much potential. Then Hollywood grabs him up, chews him up, spits him the fuck out, and we haven't heard from him since. And it kills their soul, crushes their spirit. And so many great directors have been destroyed by the Hollywood system that it's not even funny, because most people that become directors want to be directors because they want to tell stories. They want to make art. Hollywood's not interested in your fucking stories. They're not interested in your art. They're interested in you being the head honcho that's making sure the wheels are turning and their money is not being wasted, and making sure that the money that they give you, they're going to earn back and then some. If that doesn't happen, you're yesterday's news. See you later. In and out. And yeah, George was close to falling prey to that a couple of different times, man. Especially in the 90s. It would have been so easy for George to just say, fuck it. And who would have blamed him? It's like, dude, I made Night of the Living Dead. I made Dawn of the Dead, a Creepshow, Day of the Dead. I've made my stand. I've done my thing. It's time for me to go off into the sunset. But George was just not that guy. George was just not the guy to just say, all right, yeah, I'll do, whatever, or I'm out of the business. Like, I'm not doing anything now. And I know that was really hard on George in the 90s. I know that was really hard on Christine in the 90s. I don't know, man. I think about this shit a lot. But it just goes to show just the artist and the determination and perseverance that George had, that through all of that, he said, "Fuck it, I'm going to Canada. I'm making Bruiser." What is Bruiser? Oh, it's just a little movie about a guy who hates everybody and hates his life. It's just like, all right, good luck, and sure shit, he fucking did it. And the same could be said. I mean, after the failure of the Crazies, George could have said, "Well, I'm deep in debt." George was basically bankrupt at the time. He could have said, "All right, I'll go type up scripts in Hollywood, or I'll just go do something." But George always fought for his art and fought for his vision, and that doesn't tend to work well with the brass in Hollywood most of the time. Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Thank you so much for that. I know I asked you the other day if you had the call sheet for that day. I figured you would. I just had a feeling that you would have it. And you said, "Yeah, I got it, but it's buried under a bunch of other stuff." I'm like, "Okay, well, okay, don't worry about it. It's fine. I'll figure it out." And it was really cool for you to actually go in and dig it out and help me out with that. So, really, really appreciate that, my man. It says, "Even the smallest person can change the course of the future." J.R.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings. It's a good quote. It's a good quote. Or it doesn't have to be. I don't. It doesn't have to be the smallest person. It could just be any person. You can do the smallest thing to change the course of the future. That's for sure. Todd says, "Join me. Perhaps you may be able to help solve a mystery." Which photo are you talking about here? I'm behind again. You talking about Stephen King and his beer? Todd says, "Yeah, man, that was a great find, and the pictures are awesome." Yeah, pretty cool stuff, man. Pretty cool. Like I said, I'm just glad to have them, and I'm glad they didn't get thrown out, because they very could have easily could have been just he could have just been like, "It's a bunch of fucking junk from 40 years ago. Get rid of it. Send it to the Salvation Army. Who cares?" Yeah, the Martin busybody. You're lazy. That would have been a rough scene in Martin if he did, stalk her and kill her or drug her and strip her down. If she would have gotten the same treatment as Fran Middleton, that would have been a hot scene right there. Carol McCloskey and then John Amplis. Oh, Michelle said, "Isn't that Barbara Anderson in the burgundy dress?" Larry saying Barb's blonde, costume designer and wife of the production designer Cletus Anderson. That's right. Was she in the burgundy dress? Hold on. Let me pull these up again. Now I'm curious. Was that Barbara Anderson? Burgundy dress. I'm guessing you're talking about one of the color photos from the movie at the end here. Looks like her. I think that is her, actually. Yeah, you're right. I thought she looked familiar. That's right. Because Cletus is also in this scene as well. So yeah, that would make total sense. Good catch. Good call. I missed that. Right there with the glasses on. That's I'm pretty sure that's Barb. Anybody want to correct me on that? Okay, so is that not her? Now we got some dissenting opinions here. Glasses threw me off for a minute. I thought Barb had those. Larry saying Barb is blonde, costume designer, wife for production media. Yeah. Is that her, Larry? Yeah, she just passed away last year, actually, unfortunately. There's actually a really good bonus feature on the Creepshow Scream Factory disc interview that they did with her. It looks like her, man. I'm telling you. You may be right about that, Michelle. I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll get to the bottom of it. We'll get to the bottom of it. Guy in the back looks like David Schwimmer with the mustache. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so it is. Okay, so it is Barb. All right, we're on the same page here. Um, all right, good call, Michelle. Good call. Um, since says Creepshow is one of my faves across the board. Cool to see these. Yeah, like I said, I've really warmed up to it, man. I was a little sour on it for a while because I had this idea in my mind that like Creepshow was the beginning of the end for George and what really pigeonholed him as a horror director. But I think I've kind of softened on that hot take over time. I think it was a necessary film that George needed to do after the failure of Night Riders. It would have been great. Like it's a great what if. Like what if Night Riders would have been a success for Laurel and UFDC. Then George could have gone on and done anything. I know they had a bunch of stuff optioned. Out of the Furnace was one that they had optioned at the time. Of course, Shooby Dooby Moon, which was a like a 50s sci-fi horror movie uh, that Rudy Ritchie had written, and I think that would have been interesting. That's the one that I've always been interested in. It's just like what would that have been? Like a 50s sci-fi type of horror film with an alien spaghetti monster with a giant dick. Like is basically what it was. It's supposed to be like a horror comedy. Um, that would have been interesting. But the fact that Night Riders didn't do well, like UFDC was like, no, like the next film, if we're putting money behind anything, like it needs to be a proven genre thing that we believe can make some money. And George Romero, Stephen King at the time, like was a can't miss combo. And I think Creepshow. I mean, Creepshow is still was forever George's only number one box office film. Like the only movie George ever made that opened number one at the box office. I think there was still a lot of meat on that bone. I think that UFDC, I think, apparently pulled the advertising for that film way too early, or was it Warner Brothers? I think Warner Brothers pulled the advertising for that film way too early, and yeah, I think it could have had a better theatrical run than it did, even though it opened at number one. It didn't make quite the amount of money that they were hoping for, but I don't think that had anything to do with the film itself. I just think it had to do with Warner Brothers more than anything. Just my opinion. Um, Robert says Creepshow is a perfect anthology 1 and 2. I agree with that, man. Both 1 and 2. 2 is I felt like was very underrated for a long time, but I think a lot of people have really come around on 2. I think Gornick did a great job with that. The KMB effects are great. The Raft, man, the Raft is still one of my favorite Creepshow stories out of all of them. I would put it right up there with anything in the first one. Honestly, I just think it's a great segment in part 2. Um, Rick says, was Land of the Dead the one with the biggest budget of all of George's Dead films? Yeah, Land of the Dead, I think, had a budget. I want to say it's reported always around 15 to 18 million for Land of the Dead, which sounds like a lot. You'd say, like, wow, that's a huge budget for George. I mean, he made fucking Dawn of the Dead for, $500,000. But yeah, 15 to 18 million for Land of the Dead sounds like a lot, but that was still, I mean, by industry standards at the time, was still a fairly low budget because the Dawn of the Dead remake had like twice that. The Dawn remake was about a $30 million budget, and in my opinion, Land of the Dead looks way the scope of Land of the Dead looks there's more money on the screen in Land of the Dead than there is in Dawn of the Dead, in my opinion. The Dawn remake, yeah, Robert's got it right here. Since this recently saw another channel commenting on a Dawn film location vid saying, yeah, I could see how a zombie apocalypse happening around a mall would be a cool, fun idea. Well, there's a movie out there. Um, Todd says Session 9 is still one of my favorite films. Yeah, Matt puts that movie over a lot. I've yet to see Session 9, actually. That's one that's on my list that I've yet to come across. But that's one that Matt really digs. So I value his opinion. So it's definitely on my list of of shit I need to see. Since says, yeah, he could have used the Cartman line, "Screw you guys, I'm going home." Glad he didn't. Yeah, George would have never done that though. George was never one to give up. I mean, even like I said, like we were saying earlier, man, like he's just never, even after the crazies and being so in debt and borderline bankruptcy at the time, like he could have easily filed for bankruptcy, and all the people that funded those films, There's Always Vanilla, Season of the Witch, The Crazies, all those people could have lost that money, and he could have gotten away and just been like, "Hey, I filed for bankruptcy. Sorry, guys, my bad." But George was never did that. He did not want to do that. And luckily, thankfully, Richard came along. They started doing the winners sports docs, and they made enough money to pay back all of George's debts and get George out of debt so that they could focus on another feature film, because you're not going to raise it's hard to raise money for a feature film like Martin when the people that you're asking for money look and say, "Well, you already owe all these people all this money. Like, why would we give you more money? Like, your track record doesn't speak for itself, sir." So the fact that George was able to do that, I mean, it just goes to show the character that George had, where he just didn't want to file for bankruptcy and wanted to make sure all the people that believed in him and backed him, um, for all those films leading up to the winners docs, got their money back. And I think that's, it says a lot, um, about who he was. What are the thoughts on Brad Anderson directing Twilight of the Dead? I think it's an interesting pick. I think it's a good pick. Like I said, it's one of those names that Hollywood, it feels like Hollywood just kind of chewed up and spit out. Like, just, it was one of those guys that was one of those big up and coming directors that had a lot of potential, but just for one reason or another, it's just kind of been off the map for quite some time. I don't know what the update for Twilight of the Dead is. It's one of those. It was a story that I was following here on the channel for months, and it seemed like the ball was rolling. Seems like shit was happening with it, but I haven't heard anything about it in quite some time. I know Matt mentioned, I don't know, about a month or so ago that he looked it up and said that they had wrapped filming and all this, but it's just like I haven't heard anything. I don't know anything about it. So I don't know if it's still happening or what's going down with it. But as soon as I know something, we'll definitely be talking about it. But I think it's a good pick. I mean, it's definitely a good idea to get a talented director behind something like that, because already you're going in at a disadvantage because you're interpreting George's work, and George's fans are already going to be looking at you like, "Oh, how dare you?" It's like, "Who do you think you are?" type of thing. But at least it's somebody who has a track record with solid work in the past, as opposed to just, Joe Schmo who just happened to, "I'll give you this amount of money to make the movie if I can direct it." And they're like, "All right, sure, whatever." So I don't know. I don't know what's happening with that. We'll see. Larry says, "I visited Barbara Anderson at her house with Felsher in 2019. That was so cool." Was that when that would have been before, whenever that interview for the Creepshow Blu-ray was done, because the Creepshow Blu-ray came out in 2018 that Blu-ray came out originally from Scream Factory. But yeah, she worked with George on a lot of stuff, man. She was one of George's real confidants. Her and Cletus both. They worked with George all the way up through Dark Half, I think, right? I think so. I think they worked together all the way up through Dark Half. So it says, we've had the discussion before, but what if George did the third Dead film first? Who knows? That's a big what if. I know me and Matt have talked about that before in the past. Like, it's a good question. Who knows? Who knows? I think if he would have done the third Dead film, I don't think that. I don't think George was ready to do, because George never wanted to. Which is why I remember back in the day after Land of the Dead, and he was immediately doing another zombie film. He always talked about, like, I like to wait, give it 10 years and revisit it and see where we're at in the world, type of thing. So I don't think George was ready to do that. I don't think his heart was set on doing that. I think he was hoping to kind of use the success of Dawn of the Dead as a springboard into allowing the company allowing him to do other things, which is how he got to do something like Night Riders, which wasn't a horror film, but it was a very personal film, and one that George loved to the day he died, and one that I love, and most people that love George love. Um, but again, who's to say? Who knows? That's an interesting one to think about, though. Yeah, I got to check out Session 9 at some point. It's just one that's never. I don't know. I just seem to never come across it for some reason. I never find the Blu-ray or anything out in the wild. I mean, obviously you can just order it on Amazon or whatever, but I don't like to do that unless it's something Romero or something in particular. Um, but if I like come across it somewhere, like yeah, it's definitely on the list for sure. Um, Michelle says, "Well, it's 1:15 a.m. and I have to get up at 6 a.m. for work, so I have to call it a night." Totally understandable. You've had a long day, long day. I'll stay up later next Sunday. Yeah, yeah, you will. Have a great night, everyone. Have a great night, Michelle. Yeah, I'll see you. We'll be seeing Michelle next weekend. She's going to be joining me for next weekend show. I'll go ahead and say it since Michelle's signing off here. Next weekend show next Sunday, the what is that? March 1st, actually, first day of March. We'll be doing a ranking Romero tier list show, and we're going to be ranking the Romero adjacent films. Now, you guys have heard me use that term before in the past. Romero adjacent. When I say Romero adjacent, I'm talking about all the films that came out of all the periphery films that came out all around George's stuff. So I'm talking about the greats. I'm talking about John Russo and Russo's filmography. I'm talking about Bill Heinzman, Flesh Eater, and the Majorettes. And I'm talking about some good ones too. We're going to be talking about, Savini's Night 90. We're going to be talking about, John Harrison's Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, Creepshow 2, Dusty Nelson's Effects, Tony Booba, Lightning Over Braddock. We're going to be doing a tier list next week. Michelle's going to be joining me for that one. It should be a lot of fun. Look forward to that one. It's going to be a fun show, I think. So that'll be next weekend show, ranking Romero adjacent films, the tier list. I'm trying to figure out what the tiers are going to be listed as, but we'll see where everything ends up. I'm going to go ahead and just tell you, like, fucking, for my money, I mean, I could be overruled on this thing by you guys in the chat, and maybe Michelle's a fan of it. I don't know, but my Uncle John is a zombie is fucking bottom of the barrel, fucking bottom of the barrel tier, or as they say over on Dead Pit, it's the drizzling shits. It's in the drizzling shits tier. So yeah, definitely look forward to that one next week. Larry says we didn't film with her; it was just a visit. Okay, that's still very, very cool, man. Hated to hear she'd passed away just last year, which Cletus had passed away sometime before that. So never got to meet or talk to either one of them. Did she ever do a Living Dead weekend, Larry? I don't feel like I remember ever seeing her. Doesn't seem like something that she would be. Although I do feel like I remember hearing somebody say that she possibly stopped by at one point to see everybody. I'm not sure, but Robert says when Twilight of the Dead comes out, if it goes to theaters, I will see it 10 times. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely check it out. I'll give it a shot. I'm not going to go in. I'm not going to go into it pessimistically. I've learned my lesson on that. Yes, there's a possibility that it could be on the level of something like Festival of the Living Dead. There is that possibility. Let's be real. But it could also be something like Queens of the Dead, something I was very pessimistic going into. I didn't think very highly of. I was just kind of like, I got to watch this because it's Tina and, we'll see what happens. And then I found myself really enjoying the film. And I've actually, I've really, really quite enjoyed it. So I'm going to go in with an open mind. Like I said, Brad Anderson's a good name. There's some hope there. I remember I think Mila Jovovich was announced to be the lead actress in it. So there's some decent names involved with the project. So it's got potential. but we'll see. Like I said, I haven't heard anything, so I don't know if it's happening or not. So I'm not gonna get my hopes up. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm wondering if it's like the Night of the Living Dead 2 thing. Remember whenever they started promoting Night of the Living Dead 2 with Laurie and Jarlath and Terry, um, and people were kind of excited. People still ask about that. Whatever happened to that movie? Basically, what it was, they shot a teaser trailer to try to raise money to actually shoot the actual film, and then I guess they just didn't raise the interest or the funds to do it, and it just never happened. So I'm hoping maybe it's not something like that where they're trying to drum up interest so they can raise the money to make it, and it's just never going to happen. But again, like I said, Landrum said that he read somewhere that it's already been filmed and they're in post production now. So I don't know. I don't know. I haven't heard anything though. Zombie 90 Extreme Pestilence. There you go. There's our next watch along. If it's not Uncle John is a zombie, Zombie 90. More people need to know about fucking Zombie 90, man. I swear. Go back and watch my top 10 favorite non-Romero zombie films, and Zombie 90 is on the list because it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but it's also one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. And it's just endless fun. Like it's one of those movies you at a party, you put on, you get drunk, and you have the time of your life watching. It's incredible. I don't know what else to say about it. Um Okay, so she never did Living Dead Weekend, says Larry. Larry said, I don't recall her ever stopping by Living Dead Weekend. She was in a wheelchair, not in great health her last handful of years. Oh, I need to hear that. Well, maybe I'm thinking of somebody else then. Um, no, you know who I'm thinking of? Zilla Clinton. Zilla Clinton was the name that I think I'm thinking of because I get them mixed up sometimes because I think of Barbara and Cletus. They were married, of course, big contributors to George's work. And then I also get Pat and Zilla because they were married and big contributors to George's work around that time too. I do remember hearing about Pat and Zilla stopping by Living Dead Weekend one year, which that would have been great. I would love to have met Pat before he'd passed away, and I'd still love to meet Zilla Clinton. I think Zilla is one of those unsung heroes of George's career that not a lot of people talk about. I've heard she's in somewhat bad health these days as well, which is unfortunate. But yeah, she's definitely one that I would just like I was talking like me and Felsher were talking about with Jack Papalardo, the box Arco pit Karen zombie. Just one of those people that I just want to meet, signature no signature on whatever. I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done. Because I just it's she was there for a lot of Georgia stuff, and I got to tell you. Um, like when we were at the Romero archive back in October, it was like, wow, okay, so she was really close to George because George had her listed out, other than Christine, his second next of kin, like in case of emergency, call this person, was Zilla Clinton. So I was like, wow, okay. So yeah, super important name in the history of Romero's work for sure. So yeah, I would just love to meet her just to say thank you. And of course, I loved her segments in the Dead Walk documentary from the Dawn of the Dead Anchor Bay Ultimate Edition. Um, I love the story where they're talking on the set of Dawn of the Dead and Zilla's just looking around and George walks up to her and just kind of winks at her and says, "We got to make a movie." I love that part. I've used that before, um, back in my younger, aspiring filmmaker days. I'd look at everybody and be like, "We're gonna make a movie." Um, yeah. Anyway, I digress. There says, "I have to tell you something." Uh-oh. Twilight was written by Rob Lucas. Uh-oh. And a few others. Rob directed Uncle John. Yeah, Rob Lucas is a good dude. Well, I don't know. Maybe I will go into it a little more pessimistic. I've never met Rob. I don't know Rob. He seems because he's also what else did he do? No, I'm thinking of what's the guy that's in My Uncle John is a Zombie that ended up making the Midnight remake? Um, oh fuck, what's his name? Gary Lee Vincent. That's what I was thinking of. Um, yeah, I can't say that's good news. But I'm trying to remember who all, because yeah, it was there was quite a few other people involved in the writing process of that too, and it's based off of an unfinished treatment for Twilight of the Dead, and I've read that treatment for Twilight of the Dead at the archive, and it's basically it follows Big Daddy. It follows Big Daddy, and it's on an island, and then the main character is this guy that lives on a boat offshore, so the zombies can't get to him, and when he needs supplies or whatever, he goes onto the island, gathers supplies, and gets back onto his boat. Um, but it's literally just like a couple page treatment. Like there's not a full screenplay or anything to it. So that's not good news. So maybe this thing won't get made. I don't know. It says could always do a Burial Ground Incest Boy fan commentary. I like Burial Ground, man. That's one that people. It's funny when I have people on, I ask them what their favorite non-Romero zombie film is. Like Burial Ground is one that I think Jace, that was his answer. Who else? Was it Demick? Was it George Demick who said Burial Ground was his favorite non-Romero zombie film? I can't remember who it was now. But it gets brought up a lot. Like people love fucking Burial Ground. It's a fun, silly fucking movie. There's definitely some parts to it, but yeah. Oh, the titty biting scene. What's his face? Fucking I think of the dude's name now. Since says IMDb says Twilight is in pre-production, maybe listing, maybe behind, maybe yeah. You never know. You can never tell. Larry says, yeah, I saw that synth. I really don't think it's been filmed. I don't either, man. I think if they had done any filming, I think we would have heard something, seen something. Somebody would have said something about it. But yeah. So I don't know. I get the vibe that it's one of those things where it's like they're trying to drum up interest to raise money to make the damn thing. Since Zilla's riding on the Raider bike on Camadon. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can tell she's wearing the long brown leather boots on the back of the bike. You can see her for a split second. Larry says Rob Lucas came to Living Dead Weekend last year in June, maybe even in October. He lives in Pittsburgh now after living in LA. Okay. Well, it's funny. I see that name, Rob Lucas, and there's a guy, my boy Rob Lucas, who always comes in here with the keep the love flame burning Big Daddy quotes. And I remember seeing that name. I'm like, is that the same guy? Like, it can't be. It can't be. I think it's a different Rob Lucas, but since says, yeah, it makes sense. IMDb usually pretty accurate with that stuff from my experience. For the most part, yeah. There's still some where it'll show, like, I think somebody, you'll look up an actor or a filmmaker or something that's been dead for a few years and they still have stuff listed as in pre-production or whatever. And it's just like, I don't think that's going to happen. But you can probably take that off now, IMDb. Yeah. Okay. So Ed was one. Yeah. Ed's the Burial Ground fan. I remember that. Yeah. So Ed, Jace, I remember those were the two answers of Burial Ground. I'm just like, wow, all right, everybody loves fucking Burial Ground, man. Rick says it sounds like that Diary of the Dead 2 feuding families on one island. Yeah, well, it's no, I mean it's Big Daddy on the island. From what I remember from the treatment, it's Big Daddy on the island. And he's kind of leading his army of zombies. And like I said, the treatment just kind of ends at some point. Like George started it, never finished it. But Twilight, it's funny. Twilight of the Dead was always the presumed name for George's next film back in the day. Before we got Land of the Dead, the two names that everybody always heard before we even knew about Dead Reckoning, because that was the original title of that script. The two names that everybody always assumed were going to be his next film was either Twilight of the Dead or Dusk of the Dead, because it had to go in sequence, night, dawn, day, and then either Dusk or Twilight of the Dead. And then that fucking movie Twilight came out, and we was like, well, let's not do that one. People might get confused. Yeah, I agree. Burial Ground is fun. That's for sure. Zombies and Burial Ground. Yeah, obvious masks. That's right. You would know the name Rob Lucas because he directed the one for the Fire Dog. Okay, well that's actually good. So who fucking knows, man? Hey, one bad movie, even if it's something as bad as My Uncle John is a Zombie, which it was co-directed by Russo, wasn't it? Wasn't Russo also a co-director on that? So maybe we'll give Rob a benefit of the doubt here. Dusk of the Dead sounds like a great western. Yeah. Or Dust of the Dead. There you go. Big Daddy overcharges the living to keep them from being eaten. That's what it is. I think that's the twist at the end of Twilight of the Dead. You got to pay to survive. But 2.5 hours in, I did want to share this because I didn't get to share it last week, and I feel like that was unresolved. But yes, at a recent toy fair, the Trick or Treat Studio, which we've been talking about, the Day of the Dead Trick or Treat Studio figures that are up for pre-order now. Next year they're doing a series of Creepshow figures. I'll show you guys here. These are the prototypes, unpainted. But this is what they're going to look like. Look pretty cool. You see, they got the Nathan Grantham Father's Day figure there. I think these are 5-inch figures, I believe. The ones that I have here, which these are from Monstars. I think these are 3.5 inch scale figures. Here's the Creep over here in my little box up here in the corner. I'll show these on full screen, but yeah, here's Richard and Becky from Something to Tide You Over. Then of course they got the Stephen King Jordy Verrill figure. They'll be doing the Fluffy with the crate, and of course the Creep over here. And yeah, these are slated coming 2027. So these are just the prototypes. So yeah, like last week I mentioned, like I might pass on these, but they look a little more, I don't know, detailed than these Monstar figures. They're bigger. There's a little more to them, but again, I don't know if I'm going to really drop, whatever the $120 or whatever these are going to be. But it's all pretty much the exact same ones that Monstars has put out. They just recently put out the Jordy Verrill figure, which I don't have. I only bought one of those. I need to get it, but I bought one of those and I gave it away last year during the March Madness tournament, which I plan on doing again this year. Still need to get to work on that. March is right around the corner, so but we got the whole month to do it. But yeah, let me. So yeah, these are the Monstar figures that have been out for quite some time. Here's the Creep. It's pretty cool. They got the Creep. They got the glare so bad. There we go. That's a little better. The Richard and Becky figures from Something to Tide You Over. And these are available now. You can usually find these for about $25-$30 a piece aftermarket. I don't know if you can actually go to the actual Monstars Amok Time website. I don't know if it's listed on here or not. They may still have some of these available. I'm not sure. I noticed that the other day when I was looking at those Day of the Dead, Amok Time, Monstar figures. The Bub is still available. You can actually still buy the Bub figure on the website, believe it or not. The Dr. Tongue, not so much. But yeah, they got Something to Tide You Over. This one I've gotten signed. It's the Nathan Grantham Father's Day figure signed here. John Amplis. I want my cake, Bedelia. You bitch. So yeah, like I said, it's pretty much all the same figures that have already been put out. Yeah, you're right. Harry and Becky, you're right. And of course, this is a cool one. I mean, this is a big sucker right here with the crate. You got the chains. Got it signed by Daryl Ferrucci up there at the top there. Oh, the glare is so bad. You guys can't see it. But so yeah, pretty much these are already out there, the Monstar figures. So you can find these on eBay. This one goes for a little more because there's a little more detail to it. Of course, you get the big crate and shit with it. So I think this usually goes for a little bit more money, but the other ones you can usually find on eBay for, 25, $30 at the most, I would say, which is about what what these trick or treat figures are probably going to go for next year. And like I said, I don't really buy a lot figure wise from Trick or Treat Studios. The Day of the Dead figures will be the first things I buy from them. So maybe when I get those in, I'll take a look and see how I feel. But yeah. So we got these to look forward to coming out next year from Trick or Treat Studios 2027. Creepshow series figures there. All right. So yeah, I wanted to share those with you guys because I thought I had them prepared for last week, but I fucked up and I swear I put them in a folder somewhere on my computer, but I completely lost track of what the hell I did with it. So yeah, got those to look forward to coming out next year. So you know what we need? We've gotten so many goddamn Creepshow figures and Day of the Dead figures now at this point. We need Knight Rider figures. What's a man got to do to get some Knight Rider figures around here? A King Billy figure, a Morgan figure. You know, you don't got to do a lot of them. Do them, come on. I don't even know if I've ever seen. Larry, you might know this. Have you ever seen a custom Knight Riders figure anywhere? Like a custom King Billy or a Brother Blue? I'd love a Brother Blue fucking figure. That would be badass. But I don't think I've ever seen even a custom Knight Riders figure. Has anybody seen anything Knight Riders action figure wise before? You get the figure and a little motorcycle off to the side. There's the companion thing, a little joust. That I'll pay some money for that shit. Fabian, what's going on, man? I know you ain't a big Dawn of the Dead remake fan, but it double check. How are you in the Crazies remake? I for one love it. So I'm probably more a fan of the Dawn remake than I am the Crazies remake, honestly. In a weird way, like I'm more okay with them remaking the Crazies because the Crazies is a very ultra low budget film. It's a good concept. Like if they would have done a legit true to the original story of the Crazies remake, but just did it with a bigger budget, and I think it would have been a great movie, great remake. But again, the biggest problem that I have with the Crazies remake is that they just took it and turned it into your standard zombie movie. Basically, it's basically a zombie movie. It's people that are infected with something that are, attacking you, and then the whole thing. It's just was not the point of the original Crazies at all. Like the brilliant thing about the original Crazies is that we don't know who's crazy and who's not, and who's being driven crazy, because the main character in the original Crazies is driven crazy by the end of the movie, not because of the virus or whatever, which we kind of come to find out that he's immune to. He actually has an immunity to, but we're never going to find out because he's been driven crazy by the whole fucking circumstance that he's in, and they kill his fucking, they kill his girlfriend, kill his baby, and the whole situation itself is so crazy. I think, Richard France says it in the movie, it's like, the whole goddamn thing is mad, it's so ambiguous. And when they did the remake, I was kind of hoping they would stick with that, but instead it was just like, it's your typical, dumb zombie movie, it's like, oh, we're running away from these crazy people. And it's like, all right, I guess that works for some, but, and like I said, I kind of like the Dawn remake more than I do the Crazies remake, honestly. Me and Grande, few years ago, I guess at this point, did a stream about Romero remakes where we talked about, the Dawn remake and Crazies remake, Night of Living Dead remake, Day of the Dead remake, even. And I remember going back and rewatching those, and I the Crazies remake really was just like, it bored me. Like I was just like, this is fucking, it's boring. It's a boring fucking movie. There's nothing to it. It's pretty everything is a setup to some jump scare, and then it's just like there's no meat on that bone. Or at least in the Dawn remake, there's still um there's still something else going on under the surface, I guess. But that's just me, you know. Some people, I know a lot of people dig the Crazies remake. Um and I get it. I mean, it's a fun little action movie, but just doesn't do much for me. Jeff says, "What are your thoughts on children shouldn't play with dead things?" I like children shouldn't play with dead things quite a bit. It's early zombie stuff from the early 70s. It's Bob Clark, which I was just watching a Bob Clark movie last night for an upcoming show that I got planned coming up in a few weeks with the Revival House guys. Actually, I was watching a Death Dream. Bob Clark's super underrated horror director. Of course, most people probably know or most familiar with Black Christmas and Christmas Story when it comes to Bob Clark. But yeah, Death Dream was one that was like, I was watching, I was like, man, this is pretty unsettling. And I felt the same way about Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. The first time I saw that, I was like, this is actually kind of a creepy zombie movie. Actually, like it's pretty effective. And still, like I watched it again on back in October on Halloween night. After trick or treating and everything, we watched Halloween, and once everybody went to bed, I was like, I'm gonna watch Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. That sounds fun. And even then, I was like, yeah, this is really creepy atmosphere to it that I really dig. So yeah, I've always been a fan of Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Um, okay, Fabian. Yeah, you personally love it. That's totally cool. I'm never gonna. It's your life. You like what you like. I like some funky ass shit that people just are gonna be like, what are you talking about? Um, and I dislike a lot of stuff that people love. I don't know. It's just, but just be honest about it, man. That's all. Like Steven gives me shit sometimes. He's like, "Are you trolling people? You're trolling people." It's like, no, man. More people need to be honest about what they dislike and be open about it. Don't worry about what other people say. Like I don't know. I see that a lot. Like I watch a lot of YouTubers and stuff, and some people are just so afraid to just be a dissenting voice and say, "No, that movie's awful." Don't do that. Be honest. If you don't like something, you don't like something. It's totally you. It's totally your taste, your life experience. Everything it goes into your taste. Be you. You know. Anyway, I'm just rambling at this point. We're almost at the 3 hour point. Um, but good question though, man. Good question. Steven says the zombies in Burial Ground are okay, but I wish the rules of killing the zombies were more normal. I think it would have helped them overall. You know, if you're nitpicking it down to that granular detail, Steven, I mean, there's a lot. Technically, there's a lot wrong with Burial Ground, but it's one of those movies that to me it's like it's bad, but it's fun. There's something to it. There's a flavor to it that I can't put my finger on, but I enjoy it. It's the same thing with like Hell of the Living Dead or something like that. It's like there's something about it that I just kind of dig, and I love just that era of Italian, European horror films in general. Um, they look the same as the Monstars. Yeah, they look very, very similar, which is why I was saying I don't know if I'm really gonna, you know, trip over myself trying to get to these things. But Steven, I want the Father's Day figure. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It comes with the actual, the head and stuff, which this one does too. Um, Which this one actually it looks like I don't take them out of the package, but you can see the head on the tray down there. You can actually switch out the hands on this figure to have him to where he's actually holding the tray too. So yeah, they're very similar. So dancing figure looks like a Rastafarian. Does kind of, doesn't he? Okay, Jeff loves them. Loves those figures. Pretty cool, man. Yeah, like I said, I don't know Trick or Treat Studios figures very, very intimately, but I don't know. Maybe once I get these day figures, I'll take a look at them and make a decision. Um, Monstars did Richard and Becky too. Looks the same. Harry and Becky. Yeah, I was saying Richard and Becky too. I don't know. Richard is fucking Leslie Nielsen. It's a love triangle, man. It's hard to keep up with who's fucking who in that story. Um, a pizza lady figure in repose. Yeah. Um, Larry says, years ago, my late friend made some custom Knight Riders figures. Okay, I must have missed out on those. I bet you would, Ed. Take a Petty Tallman custom figure. I bet you would. I bet you would. I would too. That's what we need. Night 90 figures, man. We don't have any Night 90 figures either. That's another one I think that would be kind of cool. Give me figures of anything. Fuck it. Do fucking amusement park figures. I'll buy them. Give me a Lincoln Mizell figure. I'm there. Since says Crazy's remake was okay, but it missed the point and the energy of the original. I agree. That's basically my thoughts on it. It's not a bad film. It's well crafted, well executed for what it was going for. I mean, it was successful. I think it was a pretty successful film at the box office. So, hey, who the fuck am I to say? You know. I think he did Morgan. Can't recall who else. The figures may have been made for Bob Galise. Okay. Huh. I'd be interested in seeing what that looked like. A Morgan figure, yeah, with Savini. I bet that'd be cool. Steven, I hate to say this, Alpha, but you're probably going to have to go custom on those. Yeah, between the cult status of the film and the claims that vehicles are so expensive, I doubt you'll see it anytime soon. Yeah, you're probably right. And that's probably why we haven't seen anything yet. Even to this day, I mean, I think Knight Riders has gotten more love over the years, especially more so than it did when it first came out. But I still think even to this day, I mean, it's a very very niche film. It's a very cult film. You know, that's it, if I still know quite a few Romero fans that have never even watched it. They're just like, yeah, I've never seen that one. I'm just like, dude, come on, it's you'll love it. Trust me. If you like Romero stuff, you'll like it. It's not a horror film, but it's got George written all over it. Robert says I have the Blue Underground DVD of the original The Crazies coming from Amazon soon. Very cool. That's a good. The Blue Underground, because the Crazies has only gotten, I think, the Blue Underground release, which was a DVD and a Blu-ray, and the Arrow one. If I could recommend one though, man, the Arrow Blu-ray, which I think you can buy them individually. It comes, of course, in that Between Night and Dawn box set, but the individual Arrow Blu-ray, it's so good. I was just revisiting that I think last weekend. I was going back and I watched the Crazies again. And Larry's all over the bonus features, so there you go. It's got some location stuff on there with Larry. It's got the behind the scenes 8mm footage that Sam Nicotero shot while he was on set. You can see a really young George, and there's Reed Stravinsky or not Reed, but Reed Stravinsky in the back of the cop car, and there's just really cool stuff on that disc. So yeah, the Blue Underground's cool because you got the commentary with George and Bill Lustig, which is a great commentary. I love that commentary. It's one of my favorite commentaries actually because it's George talking with Bill Lustig, and of course Bill Lustig's also a cult filmmaker, of course, maniac cop, vigilante, and is just a huge fan of Romero's work. So it's George talking with a contemporary. It's kind of like when we talk about that sit down that George had with Guillermo del Toro. It's just interesting to hear one of George's contemporaries kind of, and Lustig does this in the commentary where he's literally like, George is saying like, that doesn't really work. I don't like the way that looks, and it's not that great. And Lustig's like, no, it's great. And here's why. Like, I love it. And this is why. Like, I'm glad that somebody like Lustig was there to kind of talk George off the ledge, But yeah, either one of those are great for different reasons because the Lustig commentary is not on the Arrow release. So really, if you want everything there is on the Crazies, you got to buy both. Basically, the Blue Underground and the Arrow. Both are definitely worth the price of purchase, though. Bob Clark, yeah, Porky's is what comes to mind. Yeah, Bob Clark, underrated filmmaker, man. All those, just so many different genres, and just did such good stuff in multiple genres. I love Black Christmas is my favorite of his, but yeah, I mean, Porky's is like an iconic 80s comedy, so you can't can't go wrong with Bob Clark, man. Steven says the Crazies remake was watchable but safe. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think it could have used a little more gore. Yeah, couldn't have hurt it. But I just think it missed it missed the ambiguous aspect of what George was going for in the original Crazies, which I think is what makes that movie interesting. Like if George had just made a movie about people that had, were going crazy and running around killing people, like it'd have been like, all right, that's cool. But I think the more interesting aspect of it is what George was saying about like the response to the problem, which is, again, goes back to, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. It's like the response to the problem is usually always worse than the problem itself, and that's true to life. Um, so yeah, no worries, man. No worries. Appreciate the question though. That's a interesting question. I always go back to, because again, I hear people all the time talk about how much they like the Crazies remake. I've heard quite a few people say they like the remake more, and I get it. Like, yeah, it's definitely a more digestible, more action centric type of horror film. But I'm a Romero apologist. What can I say? I'll always choose Romero over whatever. Larry says, "Holy crap! I just looked through old messages with Mitch. He made a Morgan and a King Billy. I just sent them to you in Facebook Messenger. Ooh, maybe this is a good way to end the night here. We're almost at the 3-hour mark. I'm gonna take a look at these. Ooh, you like that response there? Oh, these are cool. These are pretty cool. If you guys can see that without the glare, it's a little blurry. Yeah, a little blurry, a little glary, but yeah. Oh, wow. Ed Harris, King Billy figure. It's great detail on that, too. There's Morgan. Sorry, it's a little blurry. It's camera will not focus in on the sucker and the glare and everything, but those are awesome. I would love something like that, but I've never come across anything like that ever on like eBay or anything like that. Um, that's pretty cool though. The detail on Ed Harris's face is actually pretty good. You guys can kind of see that, barring the glare a little bit. That's awesome. Huh. I'd love to come across those. Pretty cool. Don't edit yourself. Share your feelings with the group. That's right. Butthead. I don't remember that episode. That sounds more of like a what was the teacher's name? Lesbian seagull. Fly high, lesbian seagull. What was the fucking dude's name from Beavis and Butthead that sings fucking lesbian seagull? I can't think of his name. Somebody tell me. Chit says, I'm gonna be honest and say 28 years later was the biggest pile of dog shit I have ever seen. I still want my money back. Yeah, I was not a fan. Have you seen the new one yet? The most recent one. 28 years later, the one from last year. Yeah, I was not a fan of. I have not seen the new one. And honestly, I haven't heard much about it one way or the other. So even Hell of the Living Dead followed the rules. That's right. That's right. Even down to the protagonists have to wear SWAT uniforms. They really followed the rules in that one. Bateman, are you a fan of Return of the Living Dead 2? I know many are not, coming off the original classic. I like it and like Return of the Living Dead 3 a lot. I'm kind of with you on that. Like when I first saw Return of the Living Dead Part 2, I didn't like it because I thought it was a little too, again, coming off the original, which I think the original Return of the Living Dead is fucking brilliant. I think it's one of the best horror movies ever made. But yeah, coming off of the original, when I first saw the part 2, I was just like, this ain't it. But revisiting it here lately, like I kind of get it. I think there's some real funny aspects to it. I like some of the performances in it. I like it. I like part 2, and part 3 I've liked ever since the first time I saw it. I remember seeing 3 years and years and years ago for the first time. I think it was on like Cinemax or something like that. And it's so different than the first two that you can kind of watch it as a standalone. It's kind of got its own vibe going on. And Melissa Clark, I mean, Jesus Christ, like, come on. Picture, teenage me watching, horror guy, zombie lover watching Melissa Clark from part 3. And it's just, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I like them all. I think all 3 of those are good. It wasn't until they got to, Ray from the Grave and Necropolis and all that shit that it just, then it really lost me. It really went off the rails at that point. Oh, you have a Patty Tallman figure from Babylon 5? That's cool. I didn't know that existed. I don't know anything or care anything about Babylon 5, but I think it'd be cool just to have a Patty Tallman figure, just in general. Rick says, anyone seen that Daisy Riley zombie movie, We Bury the Dead, or the sequel? I haven't seen either one of those. I was thinking about going to the theater this weekend to see something. I saw there was I forget what it's called. I think there's a new zombie movie in the theater this weekend. This Is Not a Test, I think. I don't know if it's a zombie movie or not, but just reading the description, it definitely sounded like it was. Anybody seen that or heard anything about that? Because I said no, I'm good on that. Like, I just don't know any of the fucking movies that are playing in the theater now. Like every now and then, like there'll be a big movie, but for the most part, everything else is playing in the theater. I've never heard of. I don't know anything about. I don't know the filmmaker. I don't know the actors. And I'm just like, this just looks like some made for TV shit. Like, why is this playing in a theater? Like, I don't know, man. I don't feel good about the future of movie theaters. They'll always be around. I think there'll always be movie theaters, but I think the days of like the big multiplexes, like you see photos and stuff from like 1987. I think it was 1987. There's a photo out there of like now playing at your local theater, and it's just like RoboCop, Full Metal Jacket. Fuck, what was the other? It was like literally like 5 movies that were all just like all time classics. And it's just like, what are you going to see? And I'm just like, I would be there all day, and I would, it would just be a morning to night thing for me. Now it's like, oh, I feel like going to see a movie. What's playing? I look, and I'm just like, I don't care about any of this shit. Like, I don't know what any of this shit is. I've never even heard of any of this. Yeah, I don't know. Hell of the Living Dead figures. Yeah, I'm in on that one. Stezio, what's up, my man? Stezio Decardi. Hi, all. Sorry, I just got home. Life has been shitty lately. I hate to hear that, man. Too much to talk about. Miss hearing from y'all. Hopefully, I can join next Sunday. Yeah, man. Hate to hear that. It bums me out. Like, I've been thinking, I hope everything's going well, man. I hope everything gets better. Stick it, hang in there, stick with it. Things will get better. Whatever. I don't know what's going on, but things will get better. Just stay strong, my man. But I was thinking about 1911 guitar dude, Brett, my boy Brett Aitken. I remember he popped in. I haven't seen him in the chat in quite some time. And I know he popped in, I don't know, a couple months ago and mentioned that he's been a little preoccupied with some family issues and, some his wife having some health issues. And I met both of them back at Living Dead weekend in June. He actually finally, was inspired to finally make the trip, bring the family and visit them all. And we were on Larry's tour together, and it was great meeting him, talking to him. Just super, super cool guy. I love talking to his wife. Like we just stood as he was going around getting autographs and stuff. Like I stood there and talked to his wife for a good 15, 20 minutes, and super, super sweet. But yeah, I guess she's been having some health issues and hadn't seen him in a while. And I was just thinking about him. So I shot him an email I guess it was last night, maybe the night before, just because I was, worried about it. I was just like, man, just checking in, like, how's everything going? But he says things are getting better. So that was good to hear. But yeah, I hate hearing that, man. Like, honestly, like, man, you guys like coming on here like once a week, like it is like a little movie club. Like, I feel like we're all, like even if I've never met you in person or don't really know you in person, it's like, we all love the same shit, man. And as for a kid that grew up, loving this stuff by myself and kind of being into this stuff alone, it's cool to find your community. It's cool to find your people. So, So yeah, anytime I hear about people having issues, like I remember, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you guys remember. It's probably been about a year or so since he was in the chat, but Ro Padgery, I remember he used to be in the chat quite a bit, and I remember he mentioned that he was dealing with some health issues and was dealing with some cancer. And I haven't seen him in a while, and I don't have any way to get out there. So, Ro, if you're watching, if you're just watching after the fact and you're not able to join us live, man, just shoot me a comment. Let me know you're doing okay, man. I've been thinking about you too. I don't know. I get real fucking sentimental about this shit sometimes. It just is what it is. But man, I hope you're doing okay, man. I hope things get better, Stezio. Um. Anywho, not to bring the fucking vibe of everything down. We're having a good time tonight, but yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because it sucks. Life sucks sometimes, guys. Um. Yeah, those figures are pretty badass. Back to the figures. Larry says, Sally, my friend that made those custom figures, passed away in 2020. I have a Dawn era George made by him. Oh wow. You got to show me that, man. I got to see that. I love that shit. Man, the fucking distinctive dummies, George, with the chair and all the film canisters and stuff. Like I beat myself up for not grabbing that when it went up. And same for those Dawn figures too. But seeing them in person, like, because they're one of the vendors at Living Dead Weekend back in October, they had those figures at their table, and just looking at them in person, I was just like, oh man, I really, really fucking want this thing now. But now to get them, it's like $200, $250 or something like that. You tried to tell me, Larry. You were like, dude, get them before because I think they're limited to like 100. Uh, but yeah, those things are great. But yeah, I'd love to see that George figure. Van Driesen, there you go, Van Driesen. Hello, boys. Beavis and Butthead, classic. Yeah, yeah. Post some pictures or shoot it over now. I'd love to see that. That's pretty awesome. Paul would get a kick out of that too, man. Paul would love that. Yeah, yeah, right. Synth Part 3 is very cheap. The female lead, yeah. Yes, ma'am. Since I didn't see Bone Temple, but really didn't care for 28 years, Giant Mutant Dong was still, yeah. That one just didn't work for me at all. Dong or no dong, didn't work for me. Didn't work for me, brother. Steven says, hate to agree with you, but sadly, that may come to pass. The movie theater experience may become a niche thing, and that will be a very sad thing. Yeah, I mean, it probably will, but there will always be theaters. And honestly, best way to look at it is there's probably a bit of a bit of a correction going on right now, because after a while, I think the days of the big multiplex theaters and the big corporate theaters like the AMC's and stuff like that, I think those days are numbered. But I still think there's a healthy audience out there for like smaller, more intimate theaters that are playing, more limited films and stuff like that. Because there are local theaters around here. Like I know there's a theater in Paducah, Kentucky, downtown Paducah, and they play like older films or smaller like indie films, and those always seem to draw people. It'll just be theaters in more metropolitan areas, I guess, and it's more of a niche thing, like you said. But yeah, I think it'll just be a little bit of a bit of an overcorrection going on in the industry. Steven says, despite some of the drawbacks, there's nothing like the theater experience. I agree, man. I would love to see as much as I can in the theater, even stuff that I've seen a billion times. If I've never seen it in a theater, to me, it's like Dawn of the Dead. Like when I saw Dawn of the Dead in the theater for the first time, it felt like I was seeing it or when I see Dawn of the Dead for the first time in the theater, it felt like I was seeing it for the first time because I'm watching it. I'm experiencing it with other people in that environment for the first time. There's just something different about it. Have a good night, Synth. Great fun. Sorry to have to run. Got to go make some rideshare money. Well, be careful out there, man. Be safe. Watch out for the crazies. Because Lord knows they're out there. Yeah, sorry to hear about it, man. Hope you're doing okay, my man. It says my city had 4 theaters as a kid. Now the nearest one is over an hour away. Yeah, I think that's um pretty par for the course. I hear that a lot. It's kind of like shopping malls, but again, like people think, and maybe I have more hope in humanity than most, but people think like, oh, we're just going to resort to just we'll just stay at home and watch it on Netflix, and that's just our only outlet for entertainment now, and blah blah blah. And I still feel like there's a communal aspect to either going to the movies or going on a date to the movies or going to the mall and just I feel like there's certain aspects of that we need as humans, interactions with other people, as annoying as they may be sometimes, because there's nothing worse than going to see a movie in a theater, packed theater, and people won't shut the fuck up, or they have their phones out and they're texting and God knows what else. Um, but even that, there's a story there, like one of my favorite experiences I've had recently, and I'll wrap it up after this, guys. We're over 3 hours, and I got to get my ass up and go to work in the morning. But one of my favorite experiences lately in going to see a new movie at a theater was when I went to see Scream 5 when that came out. And there's the new Scream's coming out soon, so I guess this is somewhat timely, I guess, of a story. But we went to see Scream 5, and the theater, it was me, my fiance, um, it was like a couple of people over here. It was a fairly empty theater, but it was just a couple people over there, and then there was a couple sitting up behind us. It was an older black couple sitting up behind us, and so we're watching the movie. And anytime anything scary happens, a jump scare, somebody gets stabbed to fucking death, guts go flying out, whatever, the guy behind us starts laughing loud and hysterically. My fiance is getting on her nerves. She's getting pissed. She's just like, but I'm sitting there. I'm giggling too. I'm just like, this is great. Like anytime anything happens, he's like Robert De Niro in fucking Cape Fear. Come to find out, after the movie was over, I'm waiting for Jade to come out of the bathroom. She's going to take a piss, and I'm standing there waiting. They come out of the theater. The guy leaves the theater, goes and gets the car to bring it around, and the woman walks up to me and she's like, "I am so sorry. I apologize." He has a thing where anytime he gets nervous or scared, he involuntarily laughs. And I was just like, no, that was awesome, because that experience made that movie that I just watched like 10 times better, and I'll never forget this experience. Um, so yeah, just little stuff like that, like just little stories and experiences that you have at a theater watching. Because if I just watch Scream 5 or whatever at home, I'm sure I wouldn't remember a goddamn thing about it a week later. Not that it was a bad movie or anything, but it wasn't anything that really just changed my life or anything. But that dude back there fucking hysterically laughing every time fucking somebody got gutted was just like, okay, I'll never forget this day the rest of my life. That guy was awesome. um but yeah, there's just those little experiences like that make you know uh make the theater experience different. um but uh But yeah. Anyway, guys, it's been fun. Hope you guys enjoyed checking out these photos. Pretty cool stuff. Glad I was able to nab them, and hope you guys enjoyed taking a look at them, and maybe learn something new, and maybe look at Creepshow in a different way now. And I don't know, but whatever good it was for, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Um, like I mentioned, next weekend, we're going to be doing a ranking Romero adjacent films. Michelle's going to be joining me. I think Paul Brooks is going to be joining us as well. Um, so it should be fun. It should be interesting. We're going to be talking about John Russo films, Bill Heinzman films, Tony Buba. Like I said, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Romero universe. Like I said, Romero's film career is like a family tree. It branches off in many different directions. So we're going to take a look at all of them. We're going to rank them, the good, the bad, the ugly, and it should be a fun show. Really look forward to that one. Um, Steven says best theater experience I ever had was Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I went with my best friend for a late show, and the crowd was just awesome. It made the experience so much more special. Yeah, man, I love stuff like that. Or like I remember going to see Borat when it came out, and just people in the fucking aisles, just belly laughing, just doubled over, and just like. But then when I watched Borat when it came out, I watched it again. I was like, well, this isn't as funny as I remember, but it's just the experience of it. It adds something to it. Um, but yeah, that would have been a cool one to see. I'm sure there was the smell of fucking weed was in the air. I'm sure. Ugh, about to sneeze. Jeff, great show, Michael. Thank you, man. Best to everyone. Until next time, Jeff. Take it easy. Robert, always a pleasure seeing you, man. Thank you very much. Larry, good night, my man. Have a good rest of your night. Steven, great show, Alpha. Thank you very much, my man. Good night, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Absolutely. Rick, always a pleasure seeing you, my man. Have a good week, everyone. Look forward to next time. Yeah, man. Like I said, next Sunday night, ranking Romero, Jason Films. And then a couple weeks after that, I'm going to have the boys from Revival House podcast on for another ranking tier show. Um, I'll go ahead. I'll just go ahead and tell you guys. If you're hanging on 3 hours into this thing, you guys deserve to know. So March 14th, I think it is. Is it 14th? No. Yeah, March 14th, Saturday night. We're going to be doing another tier list show with those guys. And I know if you're familiar with the Revival House podcast over on YouTube, you guys know how they're huge fans of Tom Savini. They love Tom Savini. And who doesn't? Who doesn't love Tom Savini? So we're going to be ranking Tom Savini's special effects. I don't know what this fancy word I'm going to use for it, but ranking Savini's effects throughout his career. The films of Tom Savini, everything from Death Dream, Martin, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, all the Romero stuff, as well as Friday the 13th Part 4, the slashers, Maniac. We're going to be ranking them all, and which films best display Savini's talents as a special films makeup artist. So that'll be another fun show, and I got some others in the works as well. So yeah, look forward to that one. That'll be March 14th, Saturday night, March 14th. Thanks again, man. Great show, always a good time. I'm glad I had a good time as well. Yeah, Robert, that'll be a good one. Never seen anything quite like that before. Well, we're gonna tackle it. We're gonna tackle it for sure. I love having fucking Norman's calendar over here. I like having a calendar handy so I can always kind of glance over and see when I'm doing what. So shout out Norman for that kick-ass calendar. But yeah, everybody make sure you're giving the videos a big thumbs up, like them, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys next weekend when we are ranking Romero adjacent films. But until then, guys, have a great rest of the night, great rest of the week. Stay safe, stay prepared, but always stay scared.